Hola. Probando, probando. Sí, sí. Hola. Bienvenidos al canal de Paranoid X Games y es un gusto saludarlos ahorita en esta emisión del E3 2021. El día de hoy, pues bueno, vamos a tener a un colaborador del canal de Paranoid X Games y del otro canal que es Nintendo Switch Kingdom. Ahorita en un par de minutos vamos a ver si nos podemos unir. Ahorita estamos estableciendo la conexión y espero que lo disfruten este evento con estos comentarios. Suscríbanse al canal, denle like, compartan, activen esa casilla de notificaciones y estén muy pendientes porque vamos a estar subiendo videos todos los viernes. A nuestro canal y vamos a continuar con nuestra serie exclusiva Partida entre Perros. Recuerden que Partida entre Perros se trata de un grupo de mancos, jugadores promedio que están tratando de ganar el Battle Royale de Warzone. Haciendo todo lo posible con todas las estrategias que llegamos a copiar, pero simplemente son jugadores promedio, son treintañeros, godines, que prácticamente lo único que hacen pues es tratar de pasar el tiempo y pasar un buen rato sobre todo. Ahorita las últimas publicaciones que hemos hecho en los videos ha sido con los momentos épicos de Resident Evil 8, para que nos estén siguiendo, y estamos por inaugurar una nueva sección en el canal que se trata de pues bueno, algunos vamos a hablar sobre este tema geek, que es el objetivo principal de este canal, pero es una sección muy importante que ahorita vamos a hablar de ello. Sí, como les decía, pues bueno, esta es una nueva sección que vamos a implementar en el canal de Paranoid X Games, y es justamente todo lo relacionado al mundo geek, y pues sobre todo pues también aquellas series de antaño que llegamos a ver en nuestra infancia, y vamos a hacer un especial de G.I. Joe, que como ustedes sabrán, pues bueno, también ya se viene una película muy interesante que es de Snake Eyes. Me parece que es en el mes de julio. Y pues bueno, el video que viene este viernes, no se lo pierdan por favor, es justamente la historia de G.I. Joe. Así que nuevamente suscríbanse al canal, denle like, compartan, activen esa casilla de notificaciones y pónganos en sus comentarios qué opinan, qué han opinado sobre todo de todo el contenido del material y qué les gustaría ver sobre todo. Recuerden que este canal no es solamente centrado a un solo videojuego, son centrado a prácticamente todos los videojuegos que se llegan a jugar. Y pues bueno, ¿por qué no implementar otras cosas como estas que estamos hablando de los juguetes que nos marcaron nuestra infancia? Hola, hola, hola. Probando, probando. Probando, probando. Ah.
Descubriste que puedes hacer algo saludable en 6 segundos y hasta te da tiempo de leer. Silk, bien hecho.
It is a fantastic program that elevates women and other diverse groups within the esports community. And most importantly, it inspires the next generation of players. So to talk more about the need for increased female representation, I am thrilled to introduce now the executive producer of Valorant, Anna Donlon. Anna, welcome.
Diego, thank you for having me.
It's so great to have you here.
I've never been on the E3 stage before. This is really exciting.
Well, I'll tell you, that makes us two because this is my first E3 too. But I'm very excited to have you here, especially because you are one of the most influential women in an industry that is predominantly male, from players to developers to heads of publishers. So I really was looking forward to this conversation and ask you, what are some of the biggest challenges you see for female players and also for those that are trying to build their careers in tech?
It's a great question. It's an important question. And I really like that you're asking it from both angles. So when it comes to competitive gaming, women still find themselves at a huge disadvantage. And it has absolutely nothing to do with skill. It's because they can't focus 100% on the game. Instead, they need to spend energy dealing with all the harassment they face. And having experienced it firsthand myself, it can be daunting and it takes away from the focus of the actual competition. And how is that fair?
No, it's not fair. It's not fair at all.
It isn't. And it's something we spend a lot of time discussing on Valorant and at Riot. And you know, it's not a terribly easy problem to solve, but the problems we're solving are rarely easy. What I will say is that we're absolutely committed to creating an inclusive environment for competition and creating safe opportunities for women to compete without fear of identity or gender-based harassment. So that's the gaming aspect.
That's so interesting and so real. So let me ask you then, when we talk about careers, what's the situation there?
Okay, so when it comes to careers in gaming, there's definitely work to be done there as well. I was fortunate enough to have a really impactful mentor early on. I had just started a job at a temp company, and while I played games, I had no idea what a career in gaming could even look like. And then at this gaming company, one of the women I was working with told me she thought I had what it took to become a game producer. I had no idea what a game producer was, but I went with it, and now 20 plus years later, here I am. And as you mentioned, there are not enough women in the industry, so it means a lot that she brought me with her. I try to pay that forward to all the
Ahorita
women
aquí
who
lo
are
que
coming
estamos
up
haciendo
after me,
es una
but we need
profesional
Wow,
desarrolladora de
your
videojuegos.
story is so inspiring, and it's the first time that I actually hear you saying it like that. So thank you, and it just reinforces how important mentorship is. So a little bit of a follow-up to the previous question, but how can both then technology and commitments to allyship play a role in the changes that we still need to see in the industry?
So I'll tell you, one of the most exciting parts of being a developer is that I get to be part of creating the future of Valorant. My team and I spend all of our time dreaming and exploring ways to make the player experience even better. And then we get to go and actually build it. It's a really interesting mix of creativity and engineering. All of the technology
Inclusión ante
mentioned
todo
on
para
stage
Noids.
today is impacting how we work and what we're able to create. So please keep those advancements coming. When it comes to specific changes that need to be made to protect women in competitive gaming, we absolutely need to keep investing and prioritizing innovations that help fight against harassment. And honestly, the gaming community needs to take a more active role in the community that it's creating. If game developers can be allies, and I truly believe we can and should, then so can your teammates in game. And again, we just need more women throughout the whole gaming ecosystem. We need an industry-wide commitment around diversity and inclusion, and we're finally starting to see that.
I like the way you said, and I couldn't agree more. We need more women, we need more diversity in the industry, and that's why today, we're taking it to the next level. Today, we are announcing an expansion of our commitment to the Valorant Game Changers Initiative. we are launching together today a new training program dedicated to mentoring up-and-coming female esports casters. The program that is launching very soon this fall will team up them with professionals in the field to provide them with practical tools and knowledge to help advance their careers. It's pretty cool, huh?
Ahorita para nosotros todo esto de la inclusión ha estado muy fuerte en estos momentos y la verdad es que han salido ideas grandiosas por parte de desarrolladoras que la verdad han pasado al otro nivel en los videojuegos que ellas desarrollan. Entonces es una muy buena iniciativa con este programa, entonces vamos a ver más allá de ello, amigos.
I am so glad that Verizon is not only acknowledging the issue, but taking actions to push for change.
Well, I love what you say, but the reality is that no one can make real change alone. So we are equally thankful for your support and for Riot's support as well. Fantastic job.
Thank you.
So Ana, thank you.
Gear power, amigos. Gear power.
For a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Diego. And honestly, thank you so much for caring about it as much as I do.
It's great to have you. Thank
Thanks.
you. So now I have a final big announcement, and I want to ask Nikki to help me with it. So come on out, Nikki.
Yes, Diego, this is big, and I am so proud to help announce it. You know, Verizon is deeply committed to building a more inclusive and diverse tech sector. Our work in this space has been going on for decades and frankly speaks for itself.
We are so proud of the work we've done, but we also know that more action needs to be taken to address the lack of female representation in gaming and more broadly in STEM. So today, Verizon is making a new $1 million commitment to increase female representation in gaming and STEM. For this, we are creating the Verizon Game Forward Scholarship. The scholarship is an expansion of the Future Fund, our initiative to support emerging female talent across entertainment and technology.
That's right. And you know, this fall, Verizon will partner with 5 historically Black colleges and universities to provide scholarships to 5 female students at each school who are active gamers and also pursuing degrees in fields that are tied to gaming development, such as computer science, graphic design, software engineering. And those 5 schools are Dillard, Delaware State, Morgan State, Texas Southern University, and Howard. We'll build tech centers on each of these campuses that will be open to the entire student body. And we'll also provide the scholarship recipients with access to the Verizon 5G Gaming Center for training, as well as mentorship.
And I tell you, here's the best part. We are guaranteeing the students internship opportunities at Verizon and with our gaming industry partners. It is these kinds of deep commitments that will help build the diverse talent pipeline the tech industry needs. We are really so proud of this and for the opportunities it will give these women.
Absolutely. And you know, I just cannot wait to see what these students do.
Nikki, thank you.
Thank you.
So I hope the last 30 minutes have clarified why Verizon is here for 2 big reasons. Number 1, technology. Verizon has a vision for how 5G and related technologies will bring an entirely new level of creation and experience of gaming for the developers, for esports teams, and for the fans. And secondly, we see this next gaming generation wanting and needing inclusivity, an industry that is more diverse and more welcoming of new faces, new voices, and new perspectives. We are here to help make astonishing things happen in gaming and esports. But we're also here to listen and to learn. Gaming is a sector of bold thinkers, free spirits, and wide open creativity. Verizon wants to support that and empower it even further. So we look forward to working with you and playing with you for a long time to come. Thank you.
Welcome back to the E3 2021 caster desk. It's me, it's Jackie, and Jackie. Two very interesting announcements there at the end for Verizon, right? Number one,
ahorita pues bueno, fue todo el tema de la inclusión y los programas para de programas de estudio que se van a estar impartiendo en 5 universidades. Entonces ahorita pues bueno, vamos a estar todavía pendientes aquí para ver qué más hay, qué otro contenido hay. Y ahorita estamos pues esperando pues bueno la información que va a salir el día de hoy, que tengo entendido es el juego de Take Two. Entonces, y muy probable pues bueno que se hable tal vez de Grand Theft Auto. Posiblemente estamos viendo eso, ¿no? Que está muy fuerte el rumor ese de que se está por ver pues con una remasterización de este juego, pero también no sabemos si vaya a haber algo de GTA 6, Grand Theft Auto 6 básicamente.
Gamers come from all walks of life, and you know, we heard Anna Donlan talking about this a little bit, but sometimes when you're a woman, it can be very discouraging. A Twitch chat can be extremely harsh. Social media, like it can be extremely painful. But seeing something like this that is uplifting and encouraging, I'm so excited for it. And you know, they kept on talking about the next generation. So many young women out there are watching this, and I'm sure that they're like, wow, like there's scholarship money out there for this. Someone's like, you can do this, and it really warmed my heart. So
100%,
happy to see it. Really happy to see it.
And one of the things in there before I toss for you, of course, is that Anna was talking in the Riot segment, right? That the gaming community needs to be better about building the community it's in. Yes. And I can't agree with that enough. If you know anything about Greg Miller and Kinda Funny, being better is a big part of what we always talk about. It's be better to each other and don't be a jerk. And I know right now on our very own Twitch page right here, a bunch of people are being jerks. And everybody who's a good person, which is the majority of gamers, need to step up, ladies and gentlemen, and of course show that the positive outshines the negative. That's my rant. Goodbye on that
Thank
one.
you so much for that.
Verizon and Riot, what a team up for the future. Let's talk about esports though, right? And speaking of esports, I want to hear from more of the voices on the scene about how esports has evolved over the years and where it's headed.
For the longest time, I didn't even tell my friends and classmates in school that I was a professional gamer.
Back when Blockbuster was still open and we had MLG events.
People that organize tournaments, and people used to drive around vans with computers and off their own money just to set up these LANs so people could play, so there could be an experience of, you know, people gaming against each other.
And I would go to my local Blockbuster and compete in getting the high score in different Nintendo games. And I would always win.
I always compare it to like a fight club, you know.
Una breve historia acerca de los eSports, de todo lo que han estado evolucionando últimamente.
Blown up.
The industry and the people in the industry who were once, you know, made fun of for being nerds and playing video games and, you know, the stereotypical living in their mom's basement, are now the cool kids on the block.
And I think now that we, as people that are involved in gaming and esports, can actually dedicate our time properly to this, that shows me just how far we've come.
Once I started to play competitively for League of Legends and realized there was an opportunity to also bring kind of my heart and my energy for the game and make it lucrative, I had to follow my heart.
I'm just very excited to see more and more people being able to turn their hobby, turn their passion into their jobs and making a living out of it.
And now you can legitimately be a kid and tell your parents like, hey, I want to be a professional esport player.
Day to day, I wake up every day and I'm just really happy to get to play games for a living.
There's Fortnite players that are 13-year-olds that I know who have the work ethic and drive and put in the time and effort like a job, more so than even my friends who have full-time jobs.
In the beginning, it was like, nerds play video games and jocks play sports, but now you have like NBA players and NFL players that are streaming and making videos.
People are now coming out about it, like, come out your gamer closet. You know, it's not, you're not a geek no more, you're not a dork, and if you are, that's cool now.
When I was a young girl, you know, I was playing 2K a lot, and I never thought I would see myself in the game, and boom, there I am. I'm able to drop 40.
Integrantes de varios equipos que juegan internacionalmente, bueno, son jugadores profesionales del eSports. Entonces, pues todo lo que pasó. Y sí recuerdo efectivamente antes que cuando estaba Blockbuster ibas a rentar tus videojuegos desde Super Nintendo o Nintendo, creo, no sé. A mí me tocó lo de Super Nintendo, que iba a rentar los los cartuchos por una semana y justamente tratabas de subir el mayor score, igual para poderlo presumir entre tus cuates, tus amigos, y pues obviamente quién era el mejor, ¿no? Y de ahí cómo fue evolucionando toda la industria, todo este ya prácticamente deporte del eSport, y cómo ha estado creciendo últimamente en estos años.
I just never thought that following my dreams was on the table for me. Like, that just did not seem reasonable. Now here I am. I turned my passion into my job. I love my job every single day. I met my husband at a gaming event, and I made lifelong friends. And I found my place, and I found a family along the way, and I couldn't be more grateful.
I can't imagine with how far it's come to see the next couple phases. But I don't think the hype behind it is going to slow down anytime soon.
I mean, I just see it going up. Content creators booming, just becoming so much bigger than before. New games releasing, more esports, more involvement and acceptance. Like, I think it's going great, and I don't think it'll stop growing anytime soon.
Recuerden, amigos, comentar en este video qué tal está apareciendo todo este contenido, y suscríbanse al canal, denle like, compartan estos videos, y pues bueno, también chequen ese Partida entre Perros, que es la serie original de este canal, y pues bueno, todas las listas de Laika Pro, y sobre todo los canales de Mangoteca X Games, el Switch Kingdom, y próximamente un nuevo canal que también vamos a tener, el canal de YouTube, pero también el canal de Spotify. No les puedo dar mucha información aquí, pero estén sintonizados para saber más acerca de ello.
篝火营地立足于中国，与多家国际一流游戏媒体同行达成正式内容合作关系，源源不断地将最新鲜的游戏资讯第一时间带给全球中文游戏玩家。自成立以来，篝火营地在全网的内容浏览量已经超过5亿，服务了数百万的读者和玩家。我们的愿景是做游戏文化传播者。您可以在全球各大手机应用市场下载篝火营地 APP， 或者访问3w.gamebonfire.com 来加入游戏传播者的行列。
Los comerciales aquí en el E3, antes de ahorita del anuncio, el próximo anuncio. A las 12 tengo entendido que es el anuncio ya de este videojuego que se llama Take-Two. Esperemos la participación de nuestro colaborador de Switch Kingdom. Y bueno, tengo entendido que ahorita es de Xbox, pero el día de mañana me parece que va a ser de la gran N. Así que vamos a tratar justamente de estar aquí igual sintonizando, brindando aquí justamente el streaming para que ustedes lo disfruten en su idioma.
As the console wars continue to rage and next-gen consoles remain scarce to find,
La guerra continúa, amigos.
Come along with a new focus to bring gaming to your sofa. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Intellivision.
Una exclusiva de la E3. Vamos a ver qué tal.
Hi, I'm Tommy Tellerico, and what an honor it is for Intellivision to be a part of this year's E3. I want to personally thank the ESA for having us be involved. And we have seen some incredible stuff. What a great time to be a gamer. I've been in the video game industry for over 32 years and have been a part of the creative teams that have made some of the greatest video games of all time, including things like Disney's Aladdin, Earthworm Jim, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Metroid Prime, Guitar Hero. I'm even the guy who did the oof sound for Roblox. Don't hate me. In fact, I own the Guinness World Record for the person who's worked on the most video games in their lifetime. My mother's very proud. But I'm here today to talk about Intellivision and our brand new video game console, Amico. Now, amico is the Italian word for friend, and that's basically what we've designed our entire system and games around. That friendship, that multiplayer, that couch co-op experience. See, when I was growing up, we didn't have the internet to play video games, so if you wanted to play with somebody else, you went over their house or they came over to your house. It was everybody in a room. In fact, I bet if you're a hardcore gamer, you're probably like me, and I bet your fondest memories of playing games.
Recuperando las salas de estar, amigos. Hashtag recuperando las salas de estar.
That's what we're all about. Now look, I'm gonna be honest, for a lot of you out there watching this, I'm not gonna impress you with our teraflops and gigawatts and screaming processor and incredible lifelike graphics. That's not what we're about. What we are is a really simple, fun party machine that you can bring out when maybe some of your non-gaming friends come over. Maybe you have a husband or a wife who isn't into gaming as much as you are. Maybe grandma comes over and you want to play a simple motion control game or a card game or a board game, dice.
Aquí no lo sé, Paranoix, déjenme sus comentarios, pero estoy viendo un posible retador de la gran N.
That's the most important thing for us, and gathering people in a room together to do it.
Quiere ganarse un espacio aquí. Se ve interesante, o sea, el hecho de que quiera hacer una consola familiar donde prácticamente haga que cualquier persona pueda participar, interactuar, pero no lo sé, amigos. Muy retador, muy ambicioso lo que quiere.
Around those two things. So for example, our controller is really unique. It has a color capacitive touchscreen on it. It really comes in handy when you're playing others that might not be as good as you in gaming. So it's a great way to give them little hints. For example, here in Shark, whoever's in last place, it will vibrate because we have haptic as well. And then it shows the color of the clam that's going to release the next big bonus pearl. So only that player will get that information. And also having a screen on every single controller gives you a lot of really cool and unique abilities to do game designs. For example, everybody has their cards and they can hide it in a game like Spades. And here you'll see it on Farkle, another one of our 6-pack in games.
Tenemos aquí un periférico con una pantalla prácticamente, pero que también puedes directamente conectarlo con la pantalla y me parece que vas a tener que utilizar una pantalla forzosamente. Digo, es eso, creo que es eso, Paranoix. Digo, dependiendo de ustedes, de su opinión, por favor, comenten esa opinión. Pero yo siento, Paranoid, que es para recuperar esas salas de estar. No sé, lo siento como un juego de mesa interactivo de esos actualones, ¿no? Pero no lo sé, reserva de sus comentarios.
Touch sensitivity as well, so the harder I press down, it'll affect gameplay. Here's a feature I think a lot of gamers are going to love.
Sí, yo lo siento así en un juego de mesa interactivo actual.
Dock it in your system, and because it recognizes that it's my controller, we can now play all of my games that I own on your system at your house. As long as my controller is there, my games are there as well. Another cool feature that we incorporated is wireless contact charging. So once you're done with your controller,
¿saben qué, amigos? Lo que también estaba pensando es que si este juego de mesa o consola llega aquí a Mexa, las posibilidades que pueda tener en cuestiones de poderlo modificar, y de hecho pues tratarlo de no sé de expandir o también meterle de algunos que otros emuladores, y pues bueno, sería muy interesante ver de qué manera se puede usar ese juego de mesa, ¿no? Aquí estamos viendo también que tienes que comprar tarjetas prepago, una especie de esa manera, una tarjeta prepago para poder hacer uso del catálogo online para poder pues bueno, vaya a disfrutar de esos videojuegos.
You download games digitally, but we also have physical media as well, and we'll be releasing more information about that later this year. Now here's something I think a lot of gamers are going to appreciate. We don't allow any loot boxes, in-game purchases, in-app advertising, or paid downloadable content, but what we do have is an online leaderboard system for most of our games where you can go in there and check your scores against your state, your country, the world, or the month, the year, and of all time.
O sea que es un pago sobre una suscripción, amigos, pero no vamos a tener que estar pagando por los famosos DLCs, que pues bueno, desafortunadamente pues han sido algo que realmente no gusta a muchos. Ya todo el sistema de DLC, el sistema de micropagos. Entonces aquí tenemos ya el precio aproximado, entre $20 por lanzamiento. Y sí, yo lo categorizaría como un juego de mesa, de esos modernones, entonces quién sabe.
Like Retro Reimagine, where we take some of the greatest classic video games of all time, give them new graphics, new audio, add multiplayer and couch co-op. Some of the things we have, for example, 12 of the best games from Atari like Breakout, Asteroids, Tempest, Missile Command. We have games like Burger Time and Bump and Jump, and even some of the best Intellivision games from the past like Cloudy Mountain and Night Stalker. We have edutainment titles for kids 7 and under, things like Sesame Street and Care Bears. Now, our original IP category contains brand new games that we've created, a lot of times around our unique controller. Some of those games are platformers like Finnegan Fox, Bomb Squad, Space Strikers, Flying Tigers, and we even got the original Echo the Dolphin team to create our new title called Dolphin Quest. We even take more modern games and add exclusive co-op modes, games like Rigid Force Redux Enhanced and Dino Blaster. Now, our sports and recreational category not only has big sports like Major League Baseball and soccer, but also recreational sports like cornhole, skiing, pool, and many more. Now, our casual category contains many party games, dice games, board games, card games, things like spades, emoji charades, and even award-winning board games like Blank Slate, Telestrations, and Ink and Gold. Now, I've already mentioned some really big partnerships and licenses like
aquí saben que va a ser muy interesante para Noitz, es como o de qué manera otras franquicias, por ejemplo, no sé, jugueteras, por ejemplo, de esas que desarrollan también los juegos de mesa, cómo los van a implementar. O sea, yo creo que ahí sería como la oportunidad de esta consola de implementar los juegos de mesa que son los comunes, por ejemplo, Monopoly, Clue, que todo eso lo puedan implementar específicamente aquí en esta consola, amigo. Entonces pues a ver qué tal,
You have till the end of June to do that, and then we'll announce 3 winners at the end of the month. Well, thank you for spending a little time with us here today. Hopefully, as you can see,
rápido, amigos, lo vieron aquí en Paranoid X Games a escribir ese correo con la palabra Groovy y esperemos que sea alguno de ustedes el ganador. Entonces, para que también lo puedan comentar, por favor, aquí y que lo mencionen que lo vieron en este canal, Paranoid X Games.
To be a fan of the industry, and we are fans of the video game industry. And you know, if there's something that you've seen here today that might be of interest, or maybe you're a developer who wants to make some games for us, maybe you want to place a pre-order, please go to Intellivision.com. We want to hear from you.
Muy interesante. La verdad es que sí lo veo una competencia, digo, quiere colarse ahí entre la gran N, pero vamos a ver cómo se va desarrollando. Yo siento que va a estar enfocado un poquito más a un mercado totalmente distinto porque es más familiar, pero yo siento que el potencial que puede sacar esta consola pues no puede ser en los juegos de mesa, clásicos, que pues bueno, compañías jugueteras también pueden aprovecharse de ello.
You know, I owned an old Intellivision, a Collegiate ColecoVision. You know, like I had those as a kid. My uncle would bring them in and we'll play games together. It was always a fun time. It was a Smurfs game that I could never finish. It was like the bane of my existence.
This is your second chance.
Yeah,
you're
maybe
gonna
I'll
get
get another opportunity of doing it. But I do like the idea behind it, and I also like too, like, there's an opportunity here even for independent developers to like get involved and make something super unique on a platform that is unconventional in comparison to what you see out there, you know, in the modern gaming era.
Yeah, Jackie, how's it resonate with you?
So all I heard was Earthworm Jim, and I was just
You're like,
I was
all right,
like,
let's go.
Earthworm Jim? I haven't heard that in forever. Oh my gosh, my brother and I used to mess with that all the time on Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Absolutely adored it. So I personally think that it's opening up a lot of accessibility. Like, if you purchase this is something that if your friends don't game, you could be like, hey, this is really simple.
Very true.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it looks like a phone, but it's kind of like a 2000.
Efectivamente, la intención yo creo de esta consola es, bueno, lo que están mencionando es simplemente que los que no acostumbran a jugar mucho, pues bueno, hay diferentes formas, diferentes juegos de mesa que igual pueden unir a la familia, y sobre todo, pues es que esto está más basado al juego multijugador, pero multijugador local.
Character, and he was just, it was a struggle. It was a struggle.
Yeah, I understand.
Maybe
I know.
he could do better with the Amico. So for me, what stood out was definitely Earthworm Jim, and then definitely accessibility.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with it, right? And again, I like the idea that they're presenting something different at the end there. Tommy talking about the fact that we don't look at other people as competition because they're clearly in a different market, right? It reminds me how I talk about Nintendo all the time marching to their own beat, right? When everything started going to HD, really, you know, a multiplayer focus, Nintendo didn't do that. There's a lot of interesting ideas with it, right? I think obviously talking about it being the party machine is.
Aquí lo que mencionó es que efectivamente apoyando la opinión que yo di acerca del multijugador, hace mención de que Nintendo no está tan orientado en ese aspecto, o bueno, sí está orientado, pero bueno, necesitas diferentes dispositivos, y aquí pues bueno hay la oportunidad de que sea más enfocado eso.
I also like the price points they set for a lot of their games, very cheap. I think it was like $10 for downloadable. I think it was like $15 for physical or $20 for physical, which you know that they're going to be coming in pretty cheap. But a lot of these things always boil down to that input, right? Like, and in this case, the controller is the appeal for this. I quite like it. We live in an age now, especially with the year that we had, where, let's be real, like having couch co-op, that's unrivaled. Like, we need more couch co-op games. Look, I love online.
Están mencionando aquí de que quieren más más videojuegos de sofá, o sea que prácticamente esos juegos que unan, pero o sea sí, yo creo que la categorización aquí que le podríamos dar a esta consola sería un juego de mesa familiar, básicamente es lo que yo le pondría. Digo, más allá de eso, porque efectivamente no invierten en gráficos, no invierten en esa cuestión de que sea de calidad, de que tenga esa conexión también para poder jugar en línea como las consolas de ahorita, efectivamente. Entonces creo que ese sería el mercado objetivo para esta consola.
We wouldn't be where we are today without the developments and announcements of those early years. Here's a look back at the first adventure.
It is absolutely no wonder that E3 continued to live on after its very first show. The show was massive. There was a surprise console launch. You could get a Killer Instinct character tattoo while you played Game Boy. You could try out not one, but 3 VR headsets. And this is all in 1995. So let's take a look through a sometimes 4x3 lens at what the first ever E3 was like. May 11th through 13th, 1995, over 55,000 industry, retailer, and press attended the debut Electronics Entertainment Expo at the Los Angeles Convention Center. There was no shortage of games you could just walk up and play, especially at the Atari Jaguar booth. This would be the only year the Jaguar system would have a booth, but it came in big and even showed off a VR peripheral that was still in development. Or you could meet Rayman and try out his new game.
Ese es el resumen de la E3 del 95. De hecho, en ese año prácticamente también el lanzamiento del PlayStation, básicamente, pero también otros sistemas que también intentaron competir con esa consola. Sega también está ahorita fuerte todavía. Nintendo prácticamente ya estaba ahí haciendo esa competencia fuerte entre Sega y Nintendo, pero estaba entrando este otro gigante de Sony de PlayStation.
And of course, there was no shortage of games that you would stumble upon that are worth playing, like the legendary RPG Chrono Trigger, Earthworm Jim 2, Resident Evil, Ridge Racer, and unique games like Street Fighter the Movie The Game.
Resident Evil, amigos, en ese año del 95. Y hasta el día de hoy, que bueno, estamos disfrutando el Resident Evil 8. Les recuerdo los videos que estamos poniendo ahí, los Epic Moments de Resident Evil Village. Y tenemos ahí el video premiere para que no se lo pierdan los que no lo han visto. Por favor, échenle un vistazo, compártanlo con sus compas. Y suscríbanse al canal si les late ese contenido, o déjenos su like o su comentario, que también nos ayuda a mejorar, por favor.
Side-scrolling games, for all the fun and success they brought us, will ultimately give way to newer, more complex genres.
And looks at the industry, then a $5 billion industry that is now an over $150 billion industry. One thing that hasn't changed is that classic E3 excitement when a game is shown. Sega's press conference was all about their new system, the Sega Saturn, and they even showed off a host of new games launching with the console, like Panzer Dragoon, a game that would launch a series and would even get a remake 25 years later in 2020. Sega showed off one of their commercials, one of the kinds that you would expect to only see in the 90s.
It's the sphincter.
And Sega even had the first, and it's available now, with the surprise announcement that the Sega Saturn is now available in stores.
We started our rollout of Sega Saturn yesterday.
Months before their original release date. Then they dropped the price and the new tagline,
Sega Saturn is not only here now, it's out there.
For Sony's presentation, it might surprise you that while Keanu Reeves made a more than memorable appearance at E3 2019, he made his actual first appearance as a key visual in Sony's opening sizzle in 1995. And this very 90s sizzle was pretty important because up until that point, Sony was still widely known as a tech company and hadn't released the PlayStation yet, at least not in the US. We were seeing the birth of a major gaming publisher and system through cheeky slides and clip art. But then came one of the most memorable moments in E3 history. After Sega had earlier announced the Sega Saturn's price of $399, the Sony Computer Entertainment president came up to the stage and simply said,
$299.
People referenced this moment as the price heard round the world. 3DO also had a press conference showing their successful 1994, how the 3DO console compares to the competition systems, and they even combated the age-old debate of PC versus console.
You don't need a dedicated system. A PC can do everything. That's a little bit like telling a family that they only really need one car.
They also showed quite a few next-gen visual demos of what their planned upcoming console, the M2, could potentially do. Nintendo spent almost their entire presentation directly discussing forgery systems and piracy that was plaguing the industry at the time. But what they lacked in any formal announcements, they made up for at their giant dome with big letters spelling out Nintendo. This is where you'll find a stage performance for Killer Instinct, as well as a place where you can get an orchid tattoo. Also, there was an early peek at the Ultra 64, which would officially be named the Nintendo 64 a few months later. Nintendo also had Earthbound, which was the origin of NES, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, and Nintendo's VR headset, the Virtual Boy. Also on display close by was the X-Band, seemingly the first online gaming attachment for a console. So that's the first E3. A look at what was, what could have been, and what came to be.
Game over.
At the first E3 in 1995, we wound up showing off an early version of the very first Unreal game. A lot of people who know and use the Unreal Engine don't necessarily know that there's a game that actually launched everything behind all of it. And I remember being there with Mark Rain, and he yells out, "Miyamoto's checking out Unreal." Shigeru Miyamoto, my hero, like my idol, who's made so many games that have just fascinated me throughout my entire life from my childhood. And I remember going over there and shaking and giving him a demo of the game and trying to show him why this game is unique, you know, with weapons that can charge up and players that can dodge and alternate fires and enemy AI that can track you down no matter where you were. And he was very stoic, you know, but I hope that I impressed him. And yeah, I was still shaking for like an hour after that.
First E3, wow. 1995. $299, what a moment. You know what I mean? Killed the Saturn in its tracks. And so that's where I want to start. 1995, mid-90s, we're talking about...
La primera E3, amigos, del 95, donde mostraba prácticamente muchos avances, sobre todo la promesa del extinto Virtual Boy, que no duró mucho en el mercado y que sobre todo pues también trajo, pues bueno, más que nada consecuencias médicas que no le favorecieron mucho, efectivamente.
She was like, well, I can't have them sharing it because we're just going to argue and fight the whole time. So then, you know, she ended up telling my father, hey, you got to go get him a Sega Genesis. She took the credit for it, by the way. Boss mom. Shout out to you, Ma. And yeah, and then, you know, I had the Sega Genesis. But the only game I had for like the longest time was Sonic Pinball or Spinball.
Spinball.
So and that was like one of my favorite Sonic games.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I was
que están hablando sobre, creo, me parece que es Sonic Pinball. Ese juego, la verdad es que no lo vi, digo, vi otros, por ejemplo, toda la serie de Sonic, hasta llegar al Sonic bueno, el que salió la versión de este Adventure, el Adventure y el Adventure 2. Y pues bueno, nada más llegué hasta jugar hasta el Sonic Heroes. Intenté jugar el Sonic the Hedgehog que salió para las consolas de PlayStation 3. Pero realmente no era tan bueno, me parece, que ese juego, pero pues no lo pudimos, ni siquiera lo pude completar, porque realmente a veces llegaba a puntos que era injugable vaya, pues el juego. Una copia de Chrono Trigger para Super Nintendo. Un juego que también salió la versión para PlayStation.
Little did they know that they were going to start a full-blown video game obsession after that. But I messed with Sega, okay? I would go to my neighbors and we would play NBA Jam. We'd be like, he's on fire! Oh my gosh, I loved it. And actually, my brother and I got a Dreamcast as well, but we were mainly a Nintendo family.
Well, yeah, the only reason I said I think I know is because you have an SNES game in front of you.
Actually, I did bring Chrono Trigger. I thought we were going to be talking about our favorite games from the 90s, and obviously, like, this one, it's near and dear to my heart. My brother and I played it repeatedly.
Sure.
And Robo's theme was my ringtone for probably 10 years, and then I got an iPhone, and I was like, wait, you can't make a ringtone for these, or can you? And I just haven't figured that out. But anyway, yeah, this story just always resonated with me so much. I was a weirdo. I played like Secret of Mana and Terranigma and Illusion of Gaia. But those were like heavy, dark stories for 7- and 8-year-olds to be taken in. So my brother and I are like, you know, we went into the Incan ruins and we found this corpse. And it was
está hablando de hacer una comparación de Chrono Trigger contra otros juegos de rol. Pero, pues bueno, efectivamente la historia de Chrono Trigger realmente fue muy buena y sobre todo te atrapa prácticamente toda la trama que este juego, ¿no? Desde Super Nintendo, ¿no? Una trama muy buena y un juego muy bien desarrollado y que pues realmente era muy bueno y marcó a muchos en su infancia.
Can I see the box?
Of course, I know. I'm like,
I don't think I've ever.
Yeah, do you want to put on white gloves before you handle it?
I feel like I should. I mean, like I've never actually held a Chrono Trigger box.
I know.
I saw one in Tokyo in Akihabara. I walked around for a little bit and I saw one there and I asked the guy if I could grab it. He looked at me, said I was crazy, and then I left being, you know, in tears. But this is like a piece of history. Yeah. This is super cool.
Greg, you can hold it too. I mean, I know this.
No, this is, you're setting me up for like when that guy shows the Woodstock ticket and tears it in half. I'm not touching that. I'm not ending up on live stream fails.
Oh my God, I love it. But I feel like you can just feel the energy like coming off of the game. You know
and it was one of the greatest RPGs
I know,
ever.
seriously.
Till this day, is still one of the greatest RPGs. Like top 5, I think.
Oh, easily in my top 5. What's in your top 5, y'all?
I want to say real quick that, and this is a reformed Sega kid speaking, that like video games made me who I am today. Obviously, it's my entire life, my entire career, my entire passion.
Yeah.
But like, I always look so longingly at people who were Nintendo kids. Because you have, like, because I feel like I feel like you guys had a different education. And that's not to say Sega didn't, but, like, I was a dumb kid. No one else liked video games as much as I did. So I was, like, just playing licensed stuff all the time. Which got me, like, Castle of Illusion, Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion, which was great. But it was also, like, the Jurassic Park game and all these other Independence Day
Streets of Rage, baby.
Dude, I love Streets of Rage. Me and Mike Boylan, I remember that on Genesis sitting there. I remember having the blood in Mortal Kombat being super stoked about.
Battletoads versus Double Dragon, Sega Genesis. That game was freaking impossible. But oh man, and Lion King, by the way. Big shout out to my buddy Sancho West, who just finished Lion King recently on stream.
Sancho West is my buddy.
Oh, okay. Well, he's actually my friend, but
he's like a
This is what happens when I can't sit between them.
Darn it, Sancho! I believed in you.
I won. It's all me. I won. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, what are your favorite 90s games? Let us know with the hashtag E3 2021 so we can get you up on screen. But still to come here on the E3 stage, we've got our indie showcase, Capcom, and so much more. The party's just getting started, so don't go anywhere.
Suscríbanse al canal, amigos, denle like, compartan, activen esa casilla de notificaciones y vamos a seguir viendo más información, a ver qué tal aquí. Bien. Vale. Tal, pues bueno, ahorita ha sido mucho ese tema, ¿no? Mucho ese tema de que ya estas carreras de diseño de videojuegos, ingeniería de software también, pues bueno, ha estado muy fuerte últimamente y pues efectivamente el trabajo, pues bueno, el trabajo va a estar ascendiendo con este tipo de industria.
篝火营地是中国
Play 5 amigos，
创立于2018年，致力于为全世界的中文游戏玩家提供专业、精准、迅速的资讯情报。篝火营地立足于中国，与多家国际一流游戏媒体同行达成正式内容合作关系，源源不断地将最新鲜的游戏资讯第一时间带给全球中文游戏玩家。自成立以来，篝火营地在全网的内容浏览量已经超过5亿，服务了数百万的读者和玩家。我们的愿景是做游戏文化传播者。您可以在全球各大手机应用市场下载篝火营地 APP， 或者访问3w.gamebonfire.com 来加入游戏传播者的行列。
Déjenos en los comentarios, amigos, qué les está pareciendo este E3 2021 con estos videos que hemos estado viendo ahorita. Y ahorita pues bueno, vienen nuevos lanzamientos. Aquí acaban de mencionar que pues, se va a ver algo de Capcom, así que vamos a ver qué tal. Muchas personas pues, bueno, están pensando que puede ser un DLC de Village, o puede ser pues ya tal vez un lanzamiento anticipado del Resident Evil Universe Reverse. Entonces vamos a ver qué tal.
I remember this one time I was at E3 on sitting there for lunch, and we were just sitting there eating, and then we talked business, then we start talking games. I remember talking about Assassin's Creed, and I was saying how I snuck in the room, I climbed on the wall.
Vivencias que tuvieron en los pasados E3 por parte de leyendas de los videojuegos. Y ahorita tenemos a la leyenda de la NFL, el Gamer Host, Man Green.
Thanks to our sponsors at DoorDash. Get more from your neighborhood, from restaurants and convenience to grocery and corner stores. All right, folks. Well, we are back here at E3 2021. And, here's the truth, guys. Sometimes the most difficult discussions, are the ones that you need to have the most. And with the gaming community already being such a diverse place, it's time for the creative space to reflect that. So here's take 2 with an important discussion on the necessity of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the corporate responsibility to honor those things.
La exclusiva de la E3, amigos. Take 2, amigos.
Hello, I'm Alan Lewis, Vice President of Corporate Communications and Public Affairs for Take-Two Interactive. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to Virtual E3 2021. Take-Two, like many organizations, is deeply committed to and actively involved in numerous initiatives to enhance diversity, equity, and inclusion within our society and industry. Affecting meaningful, sustainable change is a continuous process, and there is no one solution that can achieve that goal. We believe that to enact change, especially for those in underserved and underrepresented communities, there needs to be a continuum of activism and engagement with educational programs serving as its core foundation. Beginning with children in elementary school, we have the ability to light a spark of creativity, intellectual curiosity, and wonder that can last a lifetime. Continuing through middle and high school, we can support and nurture students during their formative years and increase the depth of their skills that can provide a pathway to attending one of the 400 plus colleges and universities within the United States that offer degrees in game design. Providing opportunities to attend these academic institutions, including need-based financial support, is also a critical component to helping end generational cycles of inequality. And while pursuing their creative and technical degrees, students can learn firsthand from industry leaders that share their experience, acumen, and passion through one-on-one mentoring and internships at our organization. Together, if our industry can execute this continuum, we will have invested meaningfully in the lives of the youth from these communities for more than a decade before they begin their professional journey. Diversity and inclusion make us a better industry for today, and most importantly, for tomorrow. It allows us to make better entertainment experiences that are authentic, culturally relevant, and reflective of the audiences that enjoy them. Today, we have brought together a few of our important partners who will share their organization's mission and role in this endeavor, as well as their insights on how we as an industry can continue to take these important steps together for the future. We hope that you find their work as inspiring as we do. It is now my pleasure to turn things over to my colleague, Tony Lagans, Director of Diversity and Inclusion for 2K, who will be the moderator for today's discussion.
Thanks, Alan. It's my pleasure to be your moderator for today's session. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce my esteemed panelists today. We're going to start off with Jim Huntley. Jim Huntley is currently the professor and head of marketing at USC. Jim is a faculty advisor, and he's an executive producer for USC Games Expo and a co-founding partner of PackU Gaming. Next, we have Susanna Pollock. Susanna is the president of Games for Change, which is a nonprofit that empowers creators and social innovators to drive real-world impact through games and immersive media. Next to Susanna, we have Gordon Bellamy. Gordon is a professor of practice of cinematographic arts at USC. He is also the head of USC Bridge Incubator, which is a program that helps to cultivate the next generation of leaders in the video game industry. And last, next to Gordon, we have Layla Shabir. Layla is the founder of Girls Make Games, which offers a series of summer camps, workshops, and game jams designed to inspire the next generation of designers, creators, and engineers. Welcome to all of you.
Don't quote me on it, is that you can paint your house whatever colour you want, as long as it's not the same as your neighbour's house.
Oh, I love that.
So that's resulted in some, really brilliant pink.
Of it in the modern era, and the rationale that there's no excuse behind not having better equity and diversity in the industry from here on out. So what I like about working with companies like Take-Two and some other companies that have reached out to me about an initiative we started called the Gerald A. Lawson Endowment Fund is that companies are now looking to invest in getting more diversity in their ranks and getting more stories told from different points of view.
I appreciate that. That's great conversation there. So let's talk about just kind of the inequities and why is it so important to have these conversations. Let's talk about that whole aspect and just getting people in the right mindset to understand what's available for them as majors in this industry. Jim, just talk to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So a lot of what we've been focusing on from a USC Games perspective is making sure that students of color, Black and Indigenous students in particular, because they have the least amount of representation within our industry out of all the various demographic groups. We've been focusing on scholarships, but the challenge that we have, and I think the challenge that society and the industry has, is it starts earlier than that. There's a phrase from, I can't remember who to attribute it to, but there's a phrase that he used that I remember saying, the inequities of our past pay dividends into the future. And that sticks with me because the reality is if you don't have a great opportunity or access to computer science labs and specialized education in grade school and high school and junior high school, the odds of you having a great portfolio piece when it comes time to apply to a program like ours puts you at a deficit. And if that deficit keeps rolling on into the future, generation after generation, the gap between the ability to get into some of these slots in game design and not being able to get them gets wider and wider. So we need to do a better job as a society, and we are willing to do our part and help work with companies like Take-Two to lead the vanguard on how do we get students some opportunity from grade school? Like, how do we make sure they can see this as an option? Because when I, as a Black man, get in front of a small group of grade school students, and I say I work in the video game industry, you can see the eyes just their minds explode because they've never seen anyone like me and the videos they see on YouTube or other visitors to their classes and to their seminars. So it's important to show that we have a presence here, but it's also important to make sure that the students who look like us, who are 20 years, 30 years, 40 years behind us, also have the opportunities that we didn't in some cases to get a job in this industry.
Yes, thank you so much for your insights. So important there. Susanna, that really kind of speaks to a lot of the great work that you're doing in helping to reach this underserved community. Can you talk about the work that Games for Change is doing?
Sure. So, our mission, as you said earlier, is to empower game designers.
Una disculpa, Paranoid, tuvimos aquí un poco de intermitencia, entonces, pues bueno, vamos aquí ya regresamos, ¿no? Desafortunadamente nuestro colega creo que no nos va a poder acompañar, pero vamos a estar aquí hasta el final del evento. Suscríbanse al canal, denle like, compartan, activen esa casilla de notificaciones.
Young people in mostly Entitled I schools, so those are schools that qualify for free lunches, which often are representing the underserved communities, an opportunity to dive in deeply into this gaming industry, this experience they all love to do, and help them become creators of this content, not just consumers. And we've been finding that the program that we've been running called the Games for Change Student Challenge, we've been running it for the past 6 years. We've reached over 30,000 young people in middle and high school. And we not only give them an opportunity to learn how to make games, but we also combine that with civic engagement. So they have to think about how games can help make their communities better. So right from the start, we want to empower them to think about this really important medium, not only as something they love to do, but they actually can make. They're learning important 21st century and STEM skills that can help them regardless of what career path. But what we really hope to see happen is that they see a future for themselves and they see an opportunity, a pathway for them. And part of our program, an important part of it, is this idea of mentoring, and mentoring from near peers and also from people from the community. So as Jim says, it's so important they see themselves in the people that are coming to speak to them. So when we're in Los Angeles, for example, we can reach out to USC Games for game design students to come and speak to the kids, that we can bring people in from Riot or Activision or from Take-Two to come in and say, yes, this is what I do, and this is something for you. And we do the same thing in New York and working in Atlanta and Detroit. And I can tell you that students are coming back year on year, and we're seeing them use this program as like their college essay, or they're building their portfolio. And I love the idea that, if we can we can get to them at a young age. They spend their summers with Layla at Girls Make Games, and then they can go on and apply to college, you know, and we were talking about this pipeline or you know, this pathway for them. And so that's that role and what we hope to inspire.
I love what you said there, Suzanne. There's so many little nuggets that you just pulled out there. The different avenues you can have and career pathways there are in the gaming industry. Just the activity that you can have in terms of having mentorship and role models and representation, and just, you know, having good gamers out there. So there's so many things that you talked about that I want to hit on. Let's just pull Layla into this conversation and just talk about the idea of mentorship and representation. Layla, talk about the workshops and the summer programs that you offer to girls. How does that help to increase the representation and the mentorship aspects that we've talked about?
Thanks so much for having me. I was on mute. This is 2021, still going on mute. But like Susanna said, I think it's really important to kind of pass that baton on. And I think we see this summer after summer, having created a place that's, you know, for girls. We get this question a lot, why do you need a space that's just for girls? There's so many programs out there that are open to everyone. But I think it's just so important to create that space because, like Jim talked about, it's so important to see people who are like yourselves. For many of the girls that come to camp, this is their first time walking into a room full of girls who love video games. You know, they've been so accustomed to kind of being the only girl on their robotics team, or the only girl that went to a coding camp with their brother, and the girl who's fighting her brothers for you know, the Xbox controller. So those are very common themes and stories, and I think it's important to kind of tie in not just the mentorship, but also the community. It's very important to walk into a room and feel like you're not an outsider, and the best way to do that is to show many more faces that look just like you. It's really validating to walk away, not just with the technical skills, but to feel like these are people that I'm gonna, you know, kind of encounter in 10, 15 years, and we'll be like professionals, because right now we're just kids making games, but we'll be professionals in a few years. And 7 years out for Girls Make Games, we're finally starting to see, you know, these girls kind of make plans together to go to college. And this year, I would say, like, the first time we got in like dozens of emails from families saying, you know, my daughter is now thinking of college, and how do we get this portfolio going? How do we set that up? So I think, touching on Jim's point too, there's so many challenges that, you know, people have to go through just to get everything right. You shouldn't have to rely on luck so much. So if you look at the women who are now excelling and thriving in the industry, and you ask them their stories, so many things had to go right in their lives to finally end up in the industry. Many of whom ended up there accidentally, like me and even Tony. I think Tony and I touched on that earlier. But it shouldn't have to be luck or accident. We can actually intentionally create these pipelines. And I think it requires all of us working together, like everyone in this room, talking about what we're doing and how do we pass our students on from, you know, we start as young as 8, getting them onto the programs and then passing them on to the student challenge and then on to USC and then finally on to the industry. I think that's basically the magic formula to solving the problem that we're talking about today.
Yes, thank you for hitting on that pipeline challenge and actually solution. You really clearly laid it out there for us. I really, really enjoy that. And something else you mentioned is just like really opening this world of gaming to new, diverse, a pool and a spectrum of gamers. And how do we create those real pathways back into the gaming industry? Gordon, you've done a lot of work in just helping to create value where value was not seen in places in the gaming industry, specifically for the gay gaming professionals. Can you talk about how the representation and widening the spectrum of what gaming professional looks like and how your company and your role really accomplishes that?
Sure. So we have a mission which is focused on education, employment, expertise, and entrepreneurship. And the reason why is because alongside diversity and equity inclusion, there's a new word that's come up a lot, which is belonging. Yes. Right? A feeling of belonging, of being default. And I know that people in their uniqueness do a lot of mental, socioeconomic, and sometimes social gymnastics before they get to be as good as they are, before they get a chance to participate in this panel, or participate in our industry by and large. And I think the work that we all share is trying to disrupt some of those mental gymnastics, socioeconomic gymnastics, social gymnastics that young women, people of color, indigenous people, neurodiverse people need to do in order to be as great as they are, to belong, in the space. And sort of hearing, what Layla's speaking to of a cohort, right, that treats each other as default, and where are we going to go now together collectively? The program, Jim's putting in place, right, with the endowment honoring Lawson, where there's going to be cohorts of Black and indigenous people, right, growing together. And the work that Susanna, you've been doing since before it was cool. Okay, you've been changing games, making that dollar out of 15 cents before all of us. All of that work, and with the support of corporations like Take-Two, right, is enabling us to move a generation forward. Specifically with GGP, we have a scholars program in partnership with Take-Two. Some go to USC, many go on to participate in Games for Change, and many have been girls who made games. And that's where we find ourselves intersecting, is at that college point of how do we take towards professionalization? And then we hope to carry them through into employment, into being experts, right? Because that's the real challenge when you're trying to discover people. You don't want just to be entering, you want experts, right? And if things are going to really change, like this discussion, you need owners, right? Layla, owner. Susanna, owner. Jim, owner. All of you, owners of facets of your business, right? That is where we become the batter, not the frosting, right? Where the change is, more than we can count, 2%, 3%, 1%. We aren't even the ones counting, right? We're still being counted, right? Until you're doing the counting, nothing has changed, right? I don't need to ask how many young ladies are in Girls Make Games. You're like, all of them, right? And what is the gender balance of Games for Change? All of it, right? These sort of systemic changes, like that
Que es una opinión precisamente de toda la interacción y la inclusión de todos los colaboradores al parecer, y dice efectivamente que todo ha sido un conocimiento y cómo es que aportan cada uno de ellos al desarrollo. Palabras muy elocuentes.
I appreciate that. Yes, exactly what you're saying. There's so much more that all of us can be doing. The accountability piece is really very important, Gordon. Thank you for bringing that up. I just want to lay this out there to all our panelists. What can corporations do to really set themselves up for success in the near future and grabbing this new talent? This talent out there that we need to capture to help us build better, more relevant, engaging video games.
Me parece que quiere decir un poco más.
I was thinking about this in particular as Gordon was talking about the scholarships that he puts forward. So having organizations, companies like Take-Two have to be visible to young people, not just because they're buying, they're downloading the games off of Xbox or PlayStation, but because they're there in front from the beginning. And so Take-Two has been part of our challenge since the beginning, offering scholarships to our grand prize winners. And I can tell you that that's a motivator for kids to participate, not just because there's a scholarship at the end, but it's because Take-Two is part of it. Like, it made us cool. Right. And I think it's that relationship at that young of an age that makes a connection for people. Is like, yeah, they want to hear what I have to say. Right. Like, they're here because this program exists and because I'm interested in doing it. And I think that kind of relationship with these kids, whether they're mentoring and coming into a classroom, they're volunteering at a game jam or judging games at the end of the competition, they're involved. And I think that it really has an impact on young kids' lives.
Yes, I love that.
I just want to add to what Suzanne's saying. I think that, and something that, we're talking about Take-Two, and thank you for having us, is making the success of Black people, of women, of queer people, of indigenous people, neurodiverse people, a business goal. Plain the same way that the consumption, right, of content, right, get some downloadable skins, buy some NBA 2K, right, that's a business goal around which the business is aligned. And I feel as though if the expertise of women, Black people, neurodiverse, other populations was a business goal, then that would be the change. It'd be that simple. Like, oh, our business is more successful if there is more of this, right? And that's
Está
about
hablando
people
acerca
being
de cómo
of
es que
value
puede haber
versus just
mayor,
being valuable, which are two
mayor
different
logro
things.
entre las
There's lots of
compañías.
exceptional people, right, who are of value in spite of their circumstances. They're valuable, right? There's a difference between saying you're of value and that's a business goal in itself. And I think that's the corporate, that's the real change. Because it used to be, I mean, just real talk, it used to be about exceptionalism, right? And be like, oh, you're able to thrive under this duress, right? Isn't that cool? Versus, right, you are actually who we are, so we are going to cultivate you. That's who we are year round. That's what we look like, what we sound like, right? Who we are. Right. And so as the lever moves more towards that, right, the same way, like I have biases. I attended Harvard College, so I'm of value, right? There's value in that, right? I'm treated that way in some circles. If the same lens was put onto women, onto brown people, Black people, queer people, then there'd be no, as the kids say, no cap on the change that could take place.
Right. And that just speaks to being deliberate with our diversity, inclusion, equity practices. Corporations really have to take that accountability and, like you said, do what's right in that spectrum, in that conversation, looking at value from different sources and kind of recalibrating our minds to that. But like you guys have said, it takes time. It takes starting earlier in the pipeline. I love that you just call that out. What other things can corporations do that are just different than what we've been doing in the past, perhaps? What would you recommend?
I would even add to what Gordon just said. The looking at this challenge as a business challenge is key. That's what between the inspiration of the social justice marches from last summer and really talking to our chair, Danny Bilson, who said that, hey, if you were going to tackle this issue, this giant generational issue as a business problem, what would you do? And that flipped the light switch on for me. Well, of course, like any business problem, what are my challenges? I've got gaps in my supply chain, if you will. So how do I fill those gaps in my supply chain? And really working your way backwards in a way where you're putting objectives, strategies, and tactics in place to achieve those goals from a business perspective. You're going to see outcome when it's not just, hey, here's a check and good luck with charity X. It's going to be more of, okay, here's a check. This is what we're hoping to see. Let's measure along the way and see if we're seeing progress on that. And it's the measurement of progress and adjusting in real time based on the data that you're getting back. That's where you're going to meet. That's where you're going to see the gap start to close in a meaningful way and be able to point out to other people in the industry, like, hey, this is what we can all do together. What if we scale this effort up and really had an impact on society as a whole? That mindset is really going to be what changes the game.
So I like to think about it as like a pie. You know, when we think about from a corporate strategy, we always think about there's a piece of the pie and everyone gets a little piece of the pie. But I think the way we have to approach this is really, the pie is not a fixed size. I think by including more people, the pie gets bigger. So it's not a fixed size that we're trying to all get a piece of, but by including more people, you know, in the industry, by becoming creators of this medium, we actually expand the medium, expand it beyond just entertainment. And I think that speaks really heavily to me as a problem solver, is like when I look at video games, it's such an underutilized tool for social change. And I think like that, I can see Susanna kind of has been on the forefront of that. And coming in as an outsider to the games industry, I was just kind of blown away that, oh my God, you can do so much. Like 9 out of 10 kids play video games. you know, not 9 out of 10 boys, 9 out of 10 kids. We're talking about literally changing perceptions and inspiring and educating generation after generation. And yet that power rests in the hand of like a select few. And I think when you think about it, not just from a corporate responsibility, but as a social responsibility, like what are we putting out there for our kids to consume? I think we need to bring in pretty much everyone, anyone and everyone who's interested in building a future together in that. So between the pie and the corporate responsibility, I feel like there's a lot that gets lost. Like, I think there's a big dichotomy between these are people that are doing good and these are people that are self-serving, but it doesn't work like that. We have to work together, and everyone does kind of go between what's good for me and what's good for everyone, you know, so.
Thank you for bringing that concept up, Layla. The codependency. We are all community members in this pipeline, and we have to be active, deliberate in our processes, in our systems, how we tackle this problem. Before we end this conversation, there's tons of questions that we have that we want to ask you. So I'm going to pause right now and give our esteemed questionnaires a chance to ask their questions that are top of mind related to our conversation today. So we're going to start it off with some questions from our other video game industry experts here. We've got Carrie, she's an executive producer from Private Division. We also have Vanetta, who's a director of talent acquisition with Take-Two, and Nir, he's the head of mobile for Take-Two. So go ahead and fire it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. The first question is for Layla, but certainly open to having the rest of our panelists answer the question. But at the beginning of your career, did you ever imagine being a leader within an industry that is predominantly male-dominated? And what is your advice
muchas oportunidades
for
aquí en esta
other
industria de los
young women
videojuegos,
that
entonces
are interested in taking a
para
similar
aquí los que
path
quieran
to where
ser,
you are today?
formar parte de esta industria, échenle mucha fibra al idioma y sobre todo
Thank
también,
you, Juanita.
pues bueno,
I don't think
eso
I
sí,
really envisioned being in a
mucho que
male-dominated
ver con la
industry,
carrera,
although
con
I
la carrera de
did envision
sistemas
being in a
computacionales, pero
male-dominated
también,
world
creo que también
because I
diseño
grew up in the
gráfico
Middle
igual,
East and I was
pero lo
painfully
más
aware of being
importante
a
es que
girl
tomen y se
and how my life was
capaciten
going to turn out to be different
en todos los
from
lenguajes de
my male
programación y sobre
peers
todo también
or my brothers or my
programas de
cousins or any
diseño
of that. I was
para que
fortunate
puedan
that
llegar a
my parents
tener
were very
estas
supportive and
oportunidades.
they
Recuerden
wanted
que
me
también
to
ya
pursue
hay
whatever dream I
cursos
wanted.
especializados de diseño de
But I
videojuegos,
think
ingeniería de videojuegos,
having
desarrollo,
that
que también
mindset and
ustedes lo
coming
pueden
from a
seguir
world
aquí.
that was very much male-dominated already prepared me for,
Suscríbanse al
you know,
canal,
hey,
denle like,
whatever I
comparte,
end up
activen esa
doing, there's
casilla de
going to be more
notificaciones.
boys or men than me. I think the piece of advice that I would really give girls is to honestly not think about your gender when you think about what you want to pursue, because it's all about you specifically. You might end up liking things that people, even your age, your geographic location, your, you know, educational background, or your family might not have heard of or even thought of. And that is all the things that I ended up doing were things that didn't match anything that I had seen in my own environment, but I just kind of pursued what I wanted to. And then two is to kind of use a very selective hearing. I think you have to kind of develop selective hearing. Listen to the people that care about you, that love you, and encourage you in being more of who you are, and diminish the voices of people who say you can't do things because it's never been done, or that's not how it is, or that's not how the world works. The way the world works is based on the world that we build, and we're continually building a new world. So it doesn't matter how things are done now, they're going to be done a different way as you grow up, and you can be part of building that world. So those would be like my two pieces of advice for girls, is to just pursue what you want and, you know, develop selective hearing.
All right. My question is for Susanna, but also open to anyone else who would like to answer. And I think Gordon kind of hit it earlier when he said that, you know, most of us didn't have a lot of examples or opportunities. I'm in that boat. I didn't have any programs and anyone telling me that I could do this, and definitely had to, not necessarily an accident, but really had to work in a different way, harder than most. So, my question, Susanna, for you is, could you share an example of how your program has impacted someone that has participated, or, you know, a few people?
Sure. So as I said, our program is 6 years old in New York City. We're a bit younger in the other cities that we're operating in, and there are opportunities now that kids all over the country can participate. But we saw in New York a very particularly strong cohort. We're actually in over 125 schools right now in New York City, and there are some rock star teachers that have encouraged their kids to participate, their participants year on year and year. And that to me is certainly the beginning of getting this kind of program off the ground, and particularly in schools where students usually aren't offered this kind of experience. So one, having the teachers find value and really and work to
Y pues bueno, estamos escuchando aquí pues bueno varias información acerca de todo lo que tiene que ver en el trabajo aquí de Take-Two. Entonces yo creo que vamos a cambiar un poquito aquí la dinámica y vamos a irnos a otro.
I think she won the like our theme category the first time round. When she participated as a sophomore. The junior year, she won again. And by the senior year, she was a grand prize winner. Pathway. She's got her family, and actually since she
to move from hiding from the industry, right, escaping from the industry, to affinity, right, right, to employee resource groups and corporate leaders like Tony existing, right, and we're moving closer to being a business resource. And so in other technology areas, that path is further along, where it is like to say in the batter that the queer identity is of value, and there's customers, there's of course creators, there's of course business leaders and owners, you know, of all walks, and in the optimum business, you would cultivate, you know, all types of people. As a game craft, We are still in generation 1. You even asking this question. Whatever population you are part of, whether it be across gender or race or expression identity, is that you don't have to be a member to care. Okay, you don't got to be a member to say this is an important issue. And in fact, a lot of the work that we do at a corporate level is saying, hey, you don't have to do all the work, right? You don't have to push the rock that's sitting on you. We're going to help you push that rock that's on you. It's not on me, but I can help push, right? Because I can see it. It's on you.
Creo que ahorita ya no hay otro evento Paranoids, pero igual vamos a estar aquí pues prácticamente haciendo cobertura de todo este evento. Entonces suscríbanse al canal, denle like, compartan, activen esa casilla de notificaciones. Si quieren pueden ver la lista de Laika Pro, que están muy buenos los movimientos, y ya se van regresando para acá porque sigue lo de Capcom según aquí el itinerario.
Can you talk about some of the activities you guys have?
Sure. So we have most of our content now, in addition to our Scholars Program and our community service that we do with Take-Two, is streaming. So we stream front page of Twitch and we bring it to YouTube, content around equity, inclusion, belonging. And not just LGBT, we just had our second Indigenous Game Creators panel yesterday. Big hit, because you know what? Indigenous creation has always been here. In August, we're going to be doing our first GGP honors, which is going to be honoring the best in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in our craft. So we're going to be lifting up the people who do the work, right? Every day in our ERGs, in our executive suites, like Dr. Liggins, right? These people need to be cultivated as well, right? The same way that we cultivate engineers, artists, and other things that we value, right? Things that we value need to be cultivated. So we're going to begin to do that work August. Tune in, front page of Twitch. It's going to be a mood. Hope you're all there.
Awesome. Thank you. We probably have time for one more question.
Palabras muy elocuentes de este profesional. Entonces, bueno, son cosas que podemos tener en cuenta prácticamente. Retomando lo del canal, pues bueno, vamos a estar haciendo diferentes videos. De hecho, también dentro de esta nueva sección de los que yo le estaba comentando de los juguetes que marcaron nuestra infancia. Y bueno, la primera de ellas, la primera serie, pues bueno, va a ser de G.I. Joe. Y pues bueno, vamos a hablar de todas las líneas de juguetes que empezaron a salir, todas las waves. Y posteriormente, bueno, vamos a tener por ahí otros videos especiales que también van relacionados a esto. Pero no sin antes recordarles que todavía vamos a estar subiendo videos sobre los momentos épicos de Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil Village, y también vamos a estar retomando la serie de Partida entre Perros, que pues bueno, ya estamos ahorita organizándonos otra vez para continuar con las temporadas de Partida entre Perros. Ya tenemos ahí unos videos grabados, nada más falta cuestión de que pasen la postproducción y pues bueno, vamos a estar poniendo ahí, ¿no? También chequen los otros canales, que es la Mancoteca Games, donde vamos a estar tratando, y también búsquenos en TikTok como Afrotech Games, Geek Games, para que también lo chequen. Bueno, también estamos como Paranoid X Games, ahí estamos subiendo varios momentos. Prácticamente lo tratamos de hacer también cada semana con momentos épicos, momentos graciosos, para que también ustedes nos sigan conociendo por todo lo ancho de toda la red. Próximamente vamos a estar haciendo otro video más de algo muy especial que también estamos armando entre Partida entre Perros. Suscríbanse al canal, denle like, compartan, activen esa casilla de notificaciones.
The positive feedback loop of being able to say, here's data that shows that what we're doing is having an impact on our objectives, and rewarding that partner or those partners for that investment and for that support. That's really key to building a positive feedback loop around investing in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah, what Jim said, but I'd still say make it mobile. God, if you could move that needle like 0.2%, anything, you can't get cut. You can't get cut then, right? There's no way, no, because they budget's tight when you're moving that needle 0.2%, right?
Muy centrada en la opinión de
The
este
scale
amigo.
at which we all operate, it's pretty staggering when you think about it. When you aggregate how much revenue and profit goes and gross profit goes in the games business, for a meaningful moving of the needle of DEI.
Déjame decirles que ahorita que está empezó a hacer así este focus group, bajó increíblemente el número de vistas, para este evento.
Frankly, when you start seeing
Prácticamente creo que muchos estaban esperando otra cosa al parecer.
Let's keep doing it, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's why the Lawson Fund is what it is. It's an endowment because we want to see it have an impact in the aggregate over time, over generations, and support students for decades to come. Not just have it be this fiscal year, what can we do?
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
One more thing, just to let it go, is just keep saying Black out loud. Right? Let's get back to Black is beautiful. We've been residing in Black Lives Matter for a long time, and we need to be back to like Black and proud and Black and beautiful. And so your existence, right? And saying it and saying positive outcomes after the word Black
Amén a eso, hermano.
meaningful each and every day that you can do it.
Ahí nos está diciendo que bueno, prácticamente es no importa el color, simplemente es estar orgulloso de ello.
What else do we have?
All right, I'll go if we have time for more. Layla, how have you been able to actually connect with the people in the community to bring awareness for your programs? Like, how do you actually gather people, to participate, and especially like in the very beginning?
Oh my gosh. So the first camp in 2014, we literally like barged into a maker fair with flyers, and we were just going around and being like, you look like you would love video games because you're playing with robots right now. So come to our camp. But I think it's pretty much primarily been word of mouth originally, but then when we ended up partnering with the game studios and game companies, that really helped elevate the program and the PR. I think Susanna touched on that. It's like it actually legitimized us and then kind of made us really cool. Like, hey, you can go make games at these game studios. You can actually make a game at Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Take-Two. You can go into their offices, meet the developers, and make these games. And I think that cool factor has kind of really helped us out. When it comes to speakers and people who want to mentor and be involved, that's been a lot easier because, a lot of our teachers end up being college students themselves, and they come back and they'll say things like, I wish this program existed when I was younger. It sucks I couldn't go to it, but at least I get to be a part of it and give back to the kids. And then same thing for mentors and speakers. There's so much interest in wanting to give back and wanting to welcome new voices into the industry. We haven't really had to do a lot of pushing. In fact, we get pulled in a lot of directions. I was talking to my team the other day. I was like, this is a very fortunate problem to have where we're getting pulled in 100 directions because we're needed in 100 directions, as opposed to us telling people that, hey, this is important, pay attention, and, look at what we're doing. So I would say it's been very organic, and really the tide is turning. We're building a new industry. We're building on the industry that we have, but we're also building a new part of the industry together. So it's really exciting.
Thank you. Thanks, Layla. And thank you to our panelists. You guys have been very inspirational, very thought-provoking, and have left us with a lot of great tidbits to take away, to take back to our corporations and our respective organizations to really make a deliberate impact in our community that we're building and this whole world of diversity and equity and inclusion in the video game industry. So thank you all. Thank you, the viewers, for joining, and have fun at the virtual E3 conference.
Bien, ya terminamos este grupo, entonces me parece que ahorita sigue ya Capcom, a ver qué tal está.
I think ever since Mega Man X, I've just loved the sort of 8-bit, 16-bit pixel art style. As an artist, I just kind of fell in love with that aesthetic.
Number 1, Mega Man X, favorite game of all time. Whenever somebody asks me the deserted on an island question, Mega Man X is the game.
I would say Tomb Raider. Lara Croft is the reason why I started to become really adventurous in my own life and wanted to be as intelligent and curious and brave as her.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I feel like that was the first video game that I've ever played where I've seen so many black people in one game and felt like, oh my gosh, my people. You got the Isley Brothers playing on the radio? Like, oh yes, this is where I need to be.
Parappa the Rapper on PlayStation. Man, bring that back, PlayStation. Parappa got more bars than half the industry right now. So I recommend that you all go check it out because it's one of my favorites.
I think it might be Apex Legends. And I know, you know, the thing you're most excited about is the thing that you've just done. But truly, I have been waiting my entire life to play a character like Valk. And yeah, it's changed my life.
My favorite game is, without question, absolutely League of Legends. It's been like a decade since release, and it's still just at the top of the charts, and it's where I go with all my friends and hang out. It's my go-to.
That was the first female I actually ever seen play video games. It was my mother, and she loved 007. And we would all play, me and my brother, my mother and my dad, and we would just go crazy in that game, have game nights and everything.
Lion King, Sega, on Sega, because that will teach you about life right quick. That was hard.
I've said it many times. TV should have his own segment. Every time he's on camera, I'm just like cracking up. Love him. Anyway, welcome back to E3 2021. Do not forget to check out e3expo.com/shop for your E3 2021 needs.
Look like this. Don't you want to look like this, young man?
You want to look just like me?
You want to look like a schlub like me? I'm in a bomber jacket. Nobody likes me. Or do you want to be in an E3 bomber jacket and everybody likes him?
All the kids want to look just like me. Anyway.
Okay, anyway, we do need to give a big thank you to Razer. Do you see our lovely little Razer Blade laptops here? And then we're in the Razer Isker chair. Oh, sorry, you didn't get one.
I got the chair, though.
You did, and they're
the lumbar.
amazing. The lumbar support is on point, y'all. Greg, you and I, we're tall folks, so it's like you need that lumbar support. It makes it stand up straight.
And that's the thing, is if you're not a tall person, you don't understand.
Ahorita están sacando esas laptops de la marca Razer. Tienen pues muy buena estabilidad. Al momento, digo, ahorita se ha sonado mucho entre Asus, Republic of Gamers, o independientemente de las máquinas de Dell, que es Alienware, que bueno, estuvo dando mucho a guerra durante varios años, pero pues ahorita ya tiene más competidores. Y uno de ellos es Asus. Asus con Republic of Gamers, y luego sigue de ahí la marca de Razer. Y también tenemos una marca de Lenovo también, que es Legion, y otra marca de Hewlett Packard o HP, que es la Omen. Que bueno, son esas tres marcas de computadoras de videojuegos que, bueno, que pueden ustedes adquirir.
You're in the hot seat first because you're right next to
me.
Hi.
Yay. The easy answer for me would have been Halo. I will just give a mention. It was the game that brought me and my brother together. We were always, bickering brothers, right? It's just how it is with siblings. But both of us sitting down playing that campaign, it was great. But for myself personally, one of the games that had a profound impact on me was, funny enough, Final Fantasy VII. It was the first RPG that I had ever played, and it began this infatuation with RPGs. And there was a point in time, folks, where the PlayStation, I swear to God, just had nothing but RPG games. I feel like every other month there was like a new RPG coming out, but that just started this long-lasting love for that genre. And then there was the first game that I played that literally was just, was Batman on the NES.
Wow, what a game.
Yeah. Super fun game. That first level as a child, let me tell you, not easy. But yeah, those games have always been so big for me. What about for you, Greg?
Man, I think if you go back to the youth, there's
Echaron
so
ahí
many
una
things that put me on this
de
path
Batman,
here, right?
pero
But
de
I
Super
think for
Nintendo,
impactful
de
games, the
esos
first thing that comes
títulos,
to mind
pues
is
sí hubo
more
un
modern.
título que
Think
estuvo
of
muy bueno
Gone
de
Home.
Batman, pero bueno, ya
Oh, if
después
you
de ahí
haven't
como
played
que
Gone Home, of course, right? It's a
no
walking
le daban el
simulator.
ancho hasta que
When
ya
Gone
empezaron a
hit,
hacer
I
toda
was
la serie
told
de
by
Arkham.
everyone on the internet to go play it and read nothing about it, which means I will now spoil Gone Home for you. But I played that game like so many people did, thinking it was a horror game. And then slowly there's this side story building about, you know, your sister and she's missing and what's going on with it. And you're reading the notes she's left. And slowly over time, it's like, oh my God, like she's falling in love. Oh my God, she's discovering she's gay. Oh my, and then it was like, wait a second. Is this game a horror game at all, or is it all about that relationship? And it was all about that relationship. And, you know, no video game, no work of fiction, of course, can tell you exactly what it's like to be LGBTQ. But for me, as you know, a hetero white male, where everything's great all the time, right? This was a window, at least, into it of what that discovery is like, and the pressure of it, and what you're going through. And it opened up a window of empathy that I've heard stories before, but to kind of experience it, you know, in a video game way, of being in there and reading these intimate thoughts on a level that I don't get in a passing conversation with somebody, it was so powerful that when that game ended, I felt like I had a brand new empathy for what, you know, LGBTQ people have to go through.
Todos esos videojuegos que fueron impactantes en tu vida, pues bueno, en el caso aquí de un servidor, amigos, para mí lo más impactante que di al inicio fue... creo que fue Earthworm Jim. Sí, ese fue yo creo desde Super Nintendo y también llegué a jugar igual el que salió en el 64. Y había otro también que igual era el Donkey Kong, que la verdad me gustaba mucho ese juego. Los de Super Mario no pasé ninguno, digo, no me llama tanto la atención como a mucha gente, pero sí llegué a jugarlos, pero no tanto.
So sweet about it. It was Golden Boy's like, you can keep it for you, Jackie. This will just be for you. And I was like, oh, he drew a stick figure of me and it was like tall and lanky. And then he's like, this is me. And he's like, see, it's got a little belly. And he's like, and it's missing hair. And I was like,
después de eso fue Devil May Cry.
Stop it, Golden Boy. But actually, this kind of brings us to our discussion about mythical games. That's why we even started talking about it.
Yeah, first, I do want to give a huge shout out to my boy Justin Kruger. I've known him for years, and he's over at Mythical, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they're going to bring to the table. But yeah, Mythical Games is a very interesting company because what they're doing is they're making games on the blockchain. And I know everyone's like, well, you know, sure, NFTs, blockchain, crypto, there's always these conversations around it. But what's really interesting about games is like, what if you were able to play something like, you know, a Hearthstone, and you had a particular card in Hearthstone. I think Dan used Ragnaros as an example, and you owned a version of that card. Like you own that card. It was like 1 of 100 or 1 of 200, whatever, right?
It'd be like Magic, right? It would be like what you're already doing.
What you're already doing right now.
Cards.
Exactly. And imagine you were able to do that. Now, this is obviously a fun game. You play with your friends, and it takes that same kind of concept of like ownership over what you have in your game, and then it just paints it with this fun-loving, you know, colorful flavor. So I'm really looking forward to it. Huge shout out to Mythical Games. I think they're pushing the boundaries a little bit here, and really it's only the beginning because you're
muy corto su éxito que tuvo el Fall Guys. De hecho, ahí hay unos videos en la Marcoteca y en el Paranoid X Games. Ahí tratando de llegar a la corona. Digo, nada más creo que ganamos una sola vez. Pero ya después de ahí ya creo que ya bajó, pues bueno, su popularidad.
Let's go.
Una exclusiva, amigos, vamos a ver de qué se trata.
Take one, ABC, common mark.
In your own words, what is Blanco's block party?
Oh man.
Blanco's block party is a lot of things.
The game or just the Blanco?
I'm looking at you. Perfect. Awesome. So Blancos was originally what we thought a player-owned economy in a video game could be.
So it's a cool mixture of art, design, you know, music, entertainment.
This is like the evolution of modern art. Seeing how those artists use different mediums again, you know, it's not just about canvases.
50% of my work is digital, and there's been rarely an outlet for that digital aspect of things.
What the gaming industry has really become is a lot about microtransactions and getting as much money out of the player as possible. What we're doing at Mythical with NFTs and blockchain really changes that script.
By the end of this time next year, I'm going to have a whole row of Blankos. So.
Play, earn, collect, sell.
That's it. Sorry, I got lost. Can we start again?
I gotta say it again for him. I ain't felt this good in a minute. Own it. I ain't trying to rent it. It feel like it's third down. So I'm a stick farm like Emmett Smith. Yeah, I'm going in, baby. Yeah, I'm trying to win, baby. Yeah, you know the biz, baby. Yeah, you know the biz, baby. The way we win, it ain't fair. But ask, do I care? Yeah, that's right. On the left side, on the right side. Put your hands way in the sky. On the right side, on the left side.
Se ve interesante este juego. No sé, se me hace una especie de tipo Fall Guys, nada más que con diferente diseño. Se ve más interesante, se puede customizar. A ver qué tal está. Ahí hablaban sobre los micropagos, microtransacciones. Entonces, eso no es ahorita en la actualidad, es como se rige todos los juegos. Siempre compras el videojuego, pero también para que tengas algo o como actual o que puedas ir avanzando más o conocer más de la historia, pues tienes que pagar de más. Entonces, pues no es algo que realmente, pues a muchos jugadores realmente no les conviene.
I just had a quadruple espresso. Is that a problem? Hi, my name is John Linden. I'm the CEO of Mythical. So working with Rudy and Jamie have really been a lot of fun because we really have kind of merged 3 different industries into one. So we have kind of obviously deep experience in gaming, but we also have teams from blockchain and we have teams in marketplace technology. And bringing these 3 worlds together, it's been a challenge at times, but also it's really helped us explore how to make this work. And I think that's been the intersection of those 3 industries together has really made Mythical special. I hope that players within Blankos can really kind of be what they want to be. You know, it's kind of a safe place that people can come. It's a great, strong community. And meanwhile, they have this economy behind the scenes that they can earn. They can really transact and be part of the world themselves. And that's really what they need to know. It really has become a great community, and we really encourage people to be part of that community.
When you're building a game at the moment, if you want to move from 10,000 users to 10 million users, what you really need to do is have really, really epic gameplay.
Blankos is a game that's all about what we imagine vinyl toys do when we're not watching. What happens when we go to sleep and these toys are left to their own devices, and an exploration of that whole fun world of creativity that these toys escape to. Every single Blanko has a story and have their own inspiration and their own flavor and their own style. And I think that players are going to find that they'll go, oh, I like this toy because it speaks to me.
You are playing, building, and collecting. But then outside of that, you are also upgrading and selling. You don't need to understand NFTs or blockchain at all to play Blankos Block Party. All you need to know is how to play a game, and we teach you that.
The Junction is an amazing place where the Blankos go to express their creativity. Players are going to have a role in helping to
tal vez pueda durar un poco más, se ve interesante la dinámica y todo, y también cómo los puedes editar, independientemente de qué vas a requerir para poder seguir actualizando tu blanco.
You're practicing your new skills out together, and then you're jumping into mini parties.
Yeah, okay.
Players can build their levels using our Blanko build tool. They can make whatever level they want. They can set the terrain, and then they could set the win conditions, and they could set the game type. So you can make this level into a shooter, or you can make this level into a race. There are things that we didn't even think was possible with our level editor that they have been able to do. I've seen levels that recreate a particular science fiction movie that I might not be able to say.
I wanted things that felt like beautiful pieces of art. We're just continually adding to this huge library of buildings and houses and vehicles and that kind of stuff. Things that you can throw together into to make your own block party.
In the open beta, we've seen over 20,000 block parties. Once they're done playing it, There's a rating system, 1 through 5. So you can really get that feedback from the players. There's over 70,000 NFTs that have already been purchased in our open beta, and we've been seeing just tons and tons of people jump in.
Now that NFTs are moving into the mainstream, the most important thing for games, for gaming studios that want to focus on NFTs is to really ensure that their gameplay, their player experience is on par or exceeds anything else in the mainstream market today.
We're putting the fun in non-fungible tokens. That's what we're doing. It's going to be really exciting to see the game, the community grow over the next few months. What we're building here with NFTs and blockchain really changes that script, because then it's players that can actually benefit and profit off of all the money they spend.
Part of my art exists in the fine art world, and in that world, I could create a painting and sell a painting, and then that painting goes off to a collector, and then I get paid once, right? And then I have no idea, no control over who gets the painting, no idea if 20 people sell it down the road for exponential amount of money. I never see a dime of that. I have no idea what to think. So one of the cool things about NFTs is that smart contract that's locked in, and you're able to just not only track who gets it, but share that profit forever.
While one will collect for love, the other side that you want to collect from is also from a perspective of capital appreciation. You know, when we look at the collector world today, vinyl toys are on a tear, right? Just the very fact that Blanco's Block Party created a platform where you could not only collect digital vinyl toys created by epic vinyl toy artists, but at the same time use those vinyl toys to battle other people in games. I truly believe that it's a magic formula for, you know, not only epic capital appreciation on the assets themselves, but also, you know, immense amount of enjoyment in playing the game.
Today's gamers are used to having a lot of control over customizing the experience that they have. We've seen that in the trend of games coming out over the last 10 years. Players spend a lot of time online, they spend a lot of time in the space. That's where they want to express themselves, through skins, through cosmetics, through the things that they buy through games. I think that's where, you know, Blancos really shines and what we bring to the table, but also where I think NFTs play a huge role, right? Like, because it gives you a chance to really own the world around you, the universe that you're customizing, you're creating. You've got a greater stake in this thing now. Rudy Koch, SVP Business Development. Am I just supposed to say that? Just my name? Title? All right. I'm a big-time collector. I collect vinyl toys. I have a whole wall of them at home. I'm a nerd. We're all nerds. We all collect.
I love collecting. I actually started my career in comic books.
I collect sneakers.
I loved Magic the Gathering. I had hundreds.
These concepts as collectors ourselves, like the box opening, you know, opening a box for your Blanco, or the serial numbers on each of the NFTs that you buy. These are concepts that live in the physical collector's world that we love so much, and we wanted to bring that and translate that into the digital world. And what's amazing is that with the players that we've seen so far and the people engaging with the economy, they are getting these concepts, and it's been a lot of fun to see that all unfold.
With real toys in real life, right? When the way to keep their value is you put them in the box, you put them on the shelf, you leave them there. But with Blancos, as you play with them, they get better. You can customize them. You can make them the way that you want them to be, but also increase their rarity and increase their scarcity by playing with them. Our leveling up process, it's called Grade Up. It draws from real toy and collectible culture. It's kind of a neat turn on everything that you would think about collectibles.
I'm looking to invest in and acquire assets from games that have the ability to move into the mainstream, games that have the ability to become AAA titles. There are mainly three that top my list. Again, Blanco's Block Party, as well as
creo que en un skin está cortando su identidad tal vez, pero forma parte también de la producción del videojuego.
Mechanisms, really in the background, while rather than having it to be a requirement to be able to participate in the game and participate in the community.
Get yours, yeah. Get the money, get the money. Ooh la 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 la, throw it all on me, yeah.
A really key focus for my team has been making sure that our marketplace is very accessible for really all players in the game. This is going to continue to develop as we add more functionality around cryptocurrencies, being able to use your crypto wallet. But the core focus of our product is making sure that the mainstream audience is able to enjoy the game and have a super simple experience.
Historically, like if you're playing a game and you're trying to sell your items, the game developer doesn't support that, right? And Mythical Games takes the stance of we enable it and we facilitate it. Mythical's blockchain uses proof of authority for consensus, which basically is a much lower carbon footprint than proof of work. And we're planning to bridge to multiple chains. We're bridging to Ethereum, which is about to go to proof of stake, which is about 99.5% less energy. By using blockchain technology, you own your game assets, and then you can build another marketplace, you can build another interface, you can bring them into another game, different metaverses, and that's a new paradigm, and it's inevitable, and I think gamers are going to demand it. Traditionally, like when you're participating in a marketplace, you're relying on trust in the company to keep the database accurate. Where Mythical Games is using a blockchain where our smart contracts are publicly accessible. So you have confidence and trust that you're getting what you're buying and your true ownership and you have it forever. Because traditionally game companies can just say there are 1,000 of them, but who knows if there are 1,000, right? With Mythical Games, we have provable scarcity. And with provable scarcity, as an investor, or a collector, or a gamer, that's really what you want.
I've been drawing since I could hold a pen or a pencil. My granddad taught me how to do an engineer drawing when I was 4. You know, I just fell in love with the idea of drawing and creating. It's just something that gives me a ton of joy. As I started to look around at art, it always really appealed to me, but I was always really appealed by graffiti art and the music that I listened to. To have a favorite, that's like asking me what my favorite child is. It's currently my daughter, by the way, if anyone was asking. So for me, it just evolved over time as I started to learn a bit more about street artists and see the evolution of street artists, see an artist go from kind of painting an illegal wall to having a gallery showing or something like that. Seeing how those artists use different mediums again, you know, it's not just about canvases, it's about sculpture. It's about taking these shapes and these 3D canvases and expressing their desires, their needs, whatever it is they're trying to say on a different canvas. We know where we sit now compared to 20 odd years ago when all these artists were still just street artists getting arrested for doing throw-ups on trains. And now, you know, a couple of $1 million at Sotheby's, I'm like, it's pretty cool.
Where should our hands be?
Just do this.
Oh, okay.
I'm super excited to talk to you guys about some of the artists that we're bringing into the game, some of the first collaborators, and I think it's appropriate to start with Michael Lau.
Michael Lau is a legend in the space. He's definitely known as the godfather of vinyl toys. He has this really awesome quote, which is, all art are toys and all toys are art. And I think like that is perfect for Blankos. And so I think we're really excited to see his style come alive in our realm.
點解想合作？咁其實一路以嚟都好想自己啲 character 可以喐啦，好似可以做一啲 animation 啊或者 game。咁今次真係有機會同一個咁配合到 figure 個 game 合作，所以係好開心。
Another artist and designer that we're super excited to talk about is Quix. And what I love about Quix is that 1, he's a graffiti artist, but 2, he's super hip hop culture. Love his designs, love the samurai.
You know, he has this really iconic, like Japanese mech warrior style. So, I think we are all just excited to see that come alive in the Blankos universe.
My artwork and the style of toys that I do now are pretty much rooted from the stuff that I've loved since I was a kid. I grew up in the 80s, so I was heavily influenced by a lot of Japanese robot shows. Texas history is like my Mickey Mouse. He represents Japanese robots, hip-hop, and graffiti, all rolled into one character.
This brand that we're going to reveal now is near and dear to my heart. I'm actually wearing some sneakers that represent them. I will let my friend Nicole here tee it up.
The Marathon Company, from a culture perspective, they've worked with some incredible folks, obviously led by Nipsey Hussle, and we certainly want to honor his memory.
Nip was someone before he passed who was already into technology. It's such an honor to be able to carry on his legacy in a sense and bring them into the world of Blankos.
One Blanco can be so many different things. A Blanco can be a pattern, it can be a unicorn, it can be so many different characters. We work regularly with Kronk. His skill at being able to create characters, make you commit to those characters, they're believable. And then we have JPK, we have industry legends like James Groman, Nikki Davis, Sarah McBisson,
Algran Chamako, Junko Mizuno, Hakutel, and Thomas Han.
We're not just picking from one person's perspective, which really helps to kind of broaden those cultural references.
I am an avid vinyl toy collector. I have just a house, floor to ceiling, vinyl toys. To find a game that did such a really great crossover between that kind of tangible good and have that element in the game, no doubt by the end of this time next year, I'm gonna have a whole row of blankos. So. It's art in a 3D form. I think it's a really great online safe haven for street art where it keeps its integrity and it isn't bastardized. Whether it's on geometry or it's sculpted or it's just tags on walls and stuff like that. I like that. I just like exploring the space. And then you still see this coalescence of cohesion as opposed to a random vomit. Art exhibit games like Blankos, I think is a really great bridge between the traditional mediums of creating art, digital art, or street art or stuff like that, and then into the game engine. And that's cool because all the elements that are familiar to the Deadmau5 fan were really well executed in these skins. Anything else, weenies? In the back.
So now that the video is coming to a close, download Blankos, blankos.com, bring your vinyl toys to life, build your own levels, buy all the designs from your favorite brands, artists, and designers, share it with all your friends so they download and play it together. And we look forward to seeing you within the world of Blankos.
But wait, we're partnering with the fashion industry's most coveted brands to bring you their style, Blanko style. And our first collab is a name you'll recognize. They're known worldwide for their signature plaids and heritage prints.
I'm incredibly excited to announce that Burberry will be partnering with Mythical Games to launch a limited edition Blanko in their game Blanko's Block Party. Pushing boundaries and discovering new ways to innovate with our communities have always been at the heart of what we do as a brand. Being a part of this creative and pioneering community with Mythical Games is an incredible synergy for us and a perfect evolution of our existing engagement with the gaming communities. This partnership presents Burberry's first exploration into the world of NFTs. This opens up a whole new platform of possibilities, and it empowers digital natives and gamers to own a piece of our brand and actively engage and participate with our house codes. We can't wait to embark on this pioneering journey with Mythical Games as we explore the future of digital ownership in gaming, whilst discovering new environments and a myriad of possibilities within this community.
Vas a poder personalizar tu blanco prácticamente hasta con ropa de diseñador. No lo sé, esto sí se me hace peor, entonces pues va a ser una sacadera de dinero, amigos. ¿Ustedes qué opinan? Pónganme en sus comentarios. Yo la verdad creo que no voy a tener que pasar de este juego, únicamente voy a limitar a lo gratis nada más.
Also, watch your favorite content creators on Twitch this week for a chance to get an exclusive new Blanko, only available through Twitch. Thank you, appreciate it. On behalf of all of us at Mythical,
chequen, ahorita ya está lista, entonces apúrense a descargarlo y para que puedan tener esa pieza exclusiva precisamente de este evento. Lo vieron aquí en Parano X Games, suscríbanse al canal, denle like, compartan.
E3 2021, and we'll get to our thoughts on Mythical Games here in a second, but first we wanted to remind everyone that they could win a $100 gift card from our partners at DoorDash just by tagging them in a tweet and following them on Twitter. It's as simple as that. But Mythical Games, I said before, it's a different kind of experience, right, Jackie? It's did you learn a little bit about the blockchain?
I mean, I learned so much, and honestly, the art was breathtaking. They were talking about how this is the evolution of modern art. I think Deadmau5 himself said this is a safe haven for street art, and I'm honestly just blown away by the entire concept. You know, you were taking me like 101. It was basically like NFT 101, Bitcoin 101, all of this stuff like kind of went over my head. But when you broke it down for me, I think it was just so intimidating to me before. Like, I was like, I don't even know how to get into this. But then once you broke it all down, I was like, I understand the concept and the proof of authority. Like, this is amazing for us to have that. And then to just bring in art and entertainment and design, like, I'm here for it. I love it. But you're going to have to school me some more. We're going to have to do some private lessons.
I got you covered. But the one 15-minute presentation wasn't enough.
Yeah, you didn't get to see his. By the way, you need to make one of these, right? I saw your art earlier. It was phenomenal.
Stick figure art, amazing. Blanco's hit me up, Mythical, I'm all about it. But Greg, you know, at its core, though, let's not forget, Blanco's Block Party is a game.
Right.
And it has one of those types of Roblox experiences to it, where, you know, it's a make your own adventure type of game. And those are really picking up. Like, I know a lot of people want to knock on it, but Roblox is like one of the biggest games of all time, of course, and huge on YouTube and stuff. So it's clear that like this is a great direction for something like this to go, where you can express your creativity.
Right, 100%. And I think that's what's interesting about it is their presentation was so focused on how NFTs work, what they're doing, the designers and artists they're partnering up with. It makes sense in the way of, hey, we want you to understand the business side of it. But for me, I was more, can we see more of the game? Can we talk more about the games? And I was talking to you about it, and it's that idea of like, well, you could, but you can make whatever you want in it, right? And that's what stands out to me, you know, as a little Big Planet fan. Even for Mod Nation Racers, but then more like...
Mod Nation Racers.
Right? Right now, like, think about how Core is doing this, how Roblox is doing this. Get in and make your own games. The fact there's already been more than 20,000 block parties they're talking about there. They called it out. You can make shooters. You can make platformers. It's like, it's early access right now. It's free to play on PC. It's one of those, like, yeah, jump on in. It doesn't cost you anything. That you don't have to buy a guy right away or do anything like that.
Yeah, a very, very cool concept. I'm very excited to see where they go from here. 100%, Greg.
100%.
And also, anyone can hit you up on Twitter for private lessons, correct?
Yeah, totally.
Just make the YouTube video of it, Golden Boy. That's all you need to do.
I'm just trying to get out of frame, guys. Okay.
I'll get you out of here. What do you do when you get one of the hottest DJs on the planet collaborates with one of the sick indie titles we're talking about? Well, I caught up with Deadmau5 and Jamie Jackson of Mythical Games to explain how they plan to keep the party going for Blankos and the crew.
He talked to Deadmau5. What?
So how did this collaboration come about?
I think Ender forced it on us.
Yeah, Rudy forced it on me. We didn't want to work together again. We would.
No. It was all mandated. Orders from above, from our benevolent overlords.
So that's mostly true, but also, you know, we're in the video game world. We're in the NFT world. You know, Joel, you've done some cool stuff in it as well, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I've been playing around with that, but I you know, outside of like, you know, the woo and wah of selling JPEGs for tens of thousands of dollars, I really liked what you guys were doing with like kind of the integrating the tangible good with that same kind of video gamey thing. That was what really got me excited.
First time with Blankos anyway, where we kind of put somebody in the game and tried to create what their character was like. You know, it was pretty cool. It was cool to like figure out how we represented him as well.
What was the inspiration behind the Deadmau5 cross Blankos character?
I mean, from my point of view, I knew like how Joel's cat Meowington was a big part of his life, and it felt like, you know, we wanted to represent the head, the mouse head, because it's such an iconic part of who he is and what he does. But we kind of didn't want to just do a modification to the Blanco. We wanted to make it a bit bigger than that. So it's actually the first time we've got a full head attachment in the game. And then we were like, well, you know, it'd be cool if when that head comes off, it's not Joel underneath, and it's Meowington's, and we kind of took a play on that, and I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really cool that they didn't just schlep a mouse head on it and call it a day. I mean, they also integrated the cat, my cat, Meowington's who I'm a big fan of, and just the fact that, you know, it's like the mouse head, but when they take the mouse head off, it's actually Meowington's, which is pretty cool because he's kind of all part of the Dead Mouse Joel ethos.
Yeah, I like with the Wii Rep through one of your early suits in it as well. That was a long-term fan.
Yeah, I stopped doing that. It was just too much effort. I like the first 2 or 3 shows, I did the suit thing, and I'm like, you know what? Just, it's too much. It's too much. We're going to strip it down a bit.
It's a cool throwback, though.
How do NFTs expand the reach of your brand?
It's a new technology and all that stuff too. So we're just going through the trials and tribulations of what is it? Because I think that the general consensus right now, if you were to ask men on the street, oh, what's an NFT? Oh, isn't that like a $10,000 JPEG? You know, is kind of the answer you're going to get. But it's really a lot more than that. It's the underlying framework and technology that allows for, you know, the blockchain provenance, you know, that unique identifier that can be used from platform to platform to platform. So think of it as like what Steam's is to video games is, you know, is like the world's Steam, you know, like, so it's every time you log into Steam or something like that, they're gonna use Steamworks to, like, you know, grab achievements and stuff like that. It's all stored on that centralized system, but blockchain being the similar concept, but decentralized across all computers and stuff like that. And because the way that the infrastructure works with blockchain is that that's all very easily swappable. The metadata, not the actual assets, but the metadata that ties to the assets can be interchangeable between a multitude of systems. So now I think that people are just now starting to kind of take in that standard protocol of, you know, fetching and receiving wallet data and stuff like that, tying assets to individuals through game platforms is a big win.
But then what are the benefits of NFTs for players?
So from a Blanco's point of view, it's about trust, really. If you boil it down, it's about trust and proof of ownership. You know, no gamer has truly owned any asset they've ever bought in a game before. You know, it's all just a license, right? And you kind of just trusting them. There's no way to prove it. Whereas with NFTs, you can kind of, it's proof. You can see it. It's open. You know, if we say there's this many, there's this many. If you own it, you own it. And with Blancos in our marketplace, that means you can also go and sell it as well. So really, it's just about trust and truly owning the assets that you pay money for.
When's the first Dead Mouse Blanco drop?
This summer.
This summer? Like this summer or next summer? This summer. Oh, nice.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Tiene una confusión ahí, pero bueno.
One of the things I liked, obviously, in the Dead Mouse presentation here was him being very much like, why are you doing this with your brand? He's like, because nobody knows what it is. Like, it's groundbreaking, it's cutting edge, and like, I like the idea of embracing something that, is this going to work? Is it going to translate to video games? Who knows? The other thing I liked that I didn't call it from the original presentation, because I didn't get the presentation about NFTs from Golden Boy, you know? So I didn't
you didn't get the special one-on-one.
But I really appreciate the idea that the original artist gets money on these. I didn't realize that.
Amazing.
Like, you make it, and I buy it from the marketplace, but then I sell it 20
Well,
times
you know,
over.
you heard what he said, right? Like, you know, he makes one of the artists said, I make a piece, and then that piece gets sold, and then that piece gets resold, and then resold and resold, and that artist doesn't see the value from it. And I think that's something that a lot of people, you know, can relate to. Like, content creators can relate to that. Content gets reused all the time, and they don't see anything from that. And this is like a way through the blockchain to be able to ensure that through these smart contracts you can do that. So it is beneficial for the creator, which, you know, without the creators we don't get a lot of these cool things, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Proof of authority in the blockchain.
Efectivamente nos están mencionando pues bueno, prácticamente los creadores de videojuegos, que es lo que van aportando contenido y que cada vez lo van puliendo cada vez más. Es que ese tema de las microtransacciones, pues bueno, es algo que creo que no nos vamos a quitar nunca.
Right before we reveal some of the hottest new indie titles releasing soon. So stay with us. If indie is the future is now. Ooh. That did not go as far as I thought.
My craziest E3 story is that I lost my wallet at the beginning of the day. I had this Pokeball wallet, and it dropped out of my bag, and I thought, well, that's it. My life is ruined. Well, I still got to get all this footage in. So I still did E3, and then I got a call from Lost and Found, and they'd actually found my wallet, and I felt like that was the biggest W of my life, because I had an amazing E3. I got to go to the Cyberpunk Lounge. I got incredible footage, and I got my wallet back.
As a part of Play For All, GameSpot will be bringing you the latest gaming news and announcements, interviews with developers, the biggest press conferences, and lots more. Play For All is our yearly online event that combines the excitement and announcements of E3 with charity live streams the following week, with lots of special guests who are going to help us raise money for able gamers. So join us in June for E3 and Play For All on GameSpot.com, YouTube.com/GameSpot, Twitch.tv/GameSpot, and as a part of E3's official broadcast. See you then.
篝火营地是中国领先的游戏媒体，创立于2018年，致力于为全世界的中文游戏玩家提供专业、精准、迅速的资讯情报。篝火营地立足于中国，与多家国际一流游戏媒体同行达成正式内容合作关系，源源不断地将最新鲜的游戏资讯第一时间带给全球中文游戏玩家。自成立以来，篝火营地在全网的内容浏览量已经超过5亿，服务了数百万的读者和玩家。我们的愿景是做游戏文化传播者。您可以在全球各大手机应用市场下载篝火营地 APP， 或者访问3w.gamebonfire.com 来加入游戏传播者的行列。
Aquí han hablado de unos juegos indie, entonces ahorita vamos a checar a ver de qué se tratan. Una exclusiva, entonces esto yo creo que debe ser del juego indie.
Hi, I'm Ariko. I am a self-proclaimed Nintendo lifer. I want to work at Nintendo as long as they will keep me. I am head of indies, and I'm probably one of the handful of people who have worked in all 3 major regions, so Nintendo of Japan, Europe, and currently I work at Nintendo of America. I am super honored and excited to be here today. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mike Micah. I'm studio head for Other Ocean and Digital Eclipse. I've been making games for far too long, but my favorite games these days happen to be these really fun small games called indie games.
Hi, Michelle Branstetter, Director of Business Development for Freedom Games. I started in games long ago, PS1, Brew, even earlier than that. Love it, excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and excited to announce more games too.
Hi, I'm Edmund McMillan, creator of Super Meat Boy, Binding of Isaac, and a bunch of other games. I'm an indie game developer. You may know me from Indie Game the Movie. Well, maybe not. It's 10 years old, but I'm here. Hi, thanks for having me.
So in recent years, and particularly over this last year, we've seen more and more people playing games. Indie games have filled the void of social and activities in the day-to-day life just as much as AAA titles. Do you believe that this line between indie games and larger publisher games is becoming blurred in the eyes of gamers?
it's becoming more of a drastic thing. Like there are super indies, and then there's this like marketable indie, which is I think a more acceptable thing that a lot of publishers are picking up. But it's kind of surprising. The real breakout hits tend to be the ones that aren't even being looked at by a publisher, that are just being picked up by, you know, going viral, essentially.
It's right to say that like indie seems to be the in thing right now. A lot of people are like, you know, indie games, go here. It's like a category. Go to the indie games category. But I do like the idea of blurring the lines, because when I was a kid buying software or downloading software, whatever you were doing back then, I would not disassociate what Jeff Minter was doing from, say, an Activision game at the time. And right now, when I'm sitting there like going through a storefront, I'm not looking for like specific things. Things catch my eye, and I see all these smaller games. There's so many of them now. But like, I'm actually looking for something that appeals to me. It's like when I used to go to the music store and go to different sections in the store. I wasn't really looking for a specific artist. I was trying to find that artist that spoke to me and take a gamble on it. I love that part of this right now. I love that somebody can still in their garage with all the engines we have now and all the help that you can get online and create a vision and then put it out there for people to either come en masse and enjoy, or just, you know, just come to take a look, and maybe you don't sell that many games, or maybe you don't like get that many downloads. But to me, that is what Edmund's saying is the quintessential indie in my mind.
I want to add to that, because at Nintendo we're definitely seeing that. I think there's such a ease to access. There's more accessibility to tools and technology now, and so a lot of the smaller developers are able to self-express and really create unique experiences that they want to do. And at Nintendo, we definitely discussed about, okay, how do we define indies? Like, what does that mean? And ultimately we decided, let the indies, like let our partners decide if they identify as indies, and how do they want to represent indies. And we're just here to really support and amplify their message. And if you look at our Indie World showcases, it's really intentional, where we let the developers talk. They're like the superstars of our showcases. And they're the ones who are on camera, and they're the stars of the show, and they get to tell their stories with their own voices.
Do you feel that having the Nintendo Switch and the graphics style that's popular in the games, and just the wealth of indie titles that are available on the platform, is due to the platform itself, or to the audience that you have, or your connection with those developers?
Yeah, I think we want our content to reflect our audience, and our audience is all genders, all ages. They have all the different tastes in games, and they're from all over the world. And so at Nintendo, we always talk about diversity and innovation. Like, those two words come out all the time. And we have indie teams based in Europe and Japan and the US and elsewhere. And we all have an equal voice. It's truly global when we think about, okay, what do we want to showcase through our campaigns? And so we want to make sure that that our global teams have equal voices, and the content reflect our audience.
Absolutely. Michelle, I know that Freedom Games publishes many games from small developers. Do you see those developers, though you're publishing them, as indies, and do they identify as indies themselves?
Yeah, most of our developers really do identify as indie. And then I want to say the indie space has evolved a lot over the years. There's a lot of competition in that space now too. But yeah, we have our developers all over the world. They're in Europe, they're in Southeast Asia, a little bit all over the place, and they're very passionate about their games, and we find them kind of everywhere. They're not really, you can't find them in a specific place anymore. They're just the kid you met at the grocery store that has this amazing game you never heard about until now, or whichever. It's everywhere now. And like Eriko said, it's so easy to make games now. Great games. So there's a lot more competition. There's a lot more great games coming out, and it's interesting to see where the space will continue to go over the years. But yeah, we are focusing on that. We have a robust catalog coming out over the next year and a half and going forward as well.
Awesome. Well, I certainly look forward to that. Edmund, I know that many people consider Binding of Isaac to be a genre-defining success. Do you see indies and their role to explore new mechanics, genres, and storytelling approaches as, something that truly defines indies and their freedoms?
For me, the thing that really defines indies is the ability to take complete financial risk when it comes to themes and topics and gameplay and everything. Like doing something that a large company wouldn't be able to do because they couldn't invest multi-millions of dollars in a project that wasn't comparable to something that exists. And that's the way all big business works. It's stupid to take a risk with that much money. So it makes perfect sense. It's like, no, it's just the way it works. But if you're a small team of a handful of people and your budget's basically your rent, you can do whatever you'd like to do. And you could make a new genre like Among Us. It's like you can take big risks and you can do what you want. And that's the beauty of complete independence. You can try to avoid the urge to appeal to a majority.
Ed Catmull speaks of the concept of the ugly baby and the hungry beast. And the hungry beast being a large company that needs to keep churning and making money in order to employ all of the people that it has working at it. Whereas the ugly baby is a brand new idea that's strange and unpolished, and it needs to be protected to see if it can grow into a beautiful swan or a beautiful indie game.
Bueno, Paranoids, pues aquí vamos a dejarlo hasta el día de hoy. Ahorita acabo de checar que no hay tantos así avisos de Capcom, no va a estar tan interesante, pero bueno, de todas maneras vamos a estar ahí al pendiente. Si hay algo, pues bueno, lo estaremos hablando acerca de él. Suscríbanse al canal, denle like, compartan, activen esa casilla de notificaciones y recuerden estar muy al pendiente sobre Partida entre Perros, los videos que se vienen de momentos épicos de Resident Evil Village y pues bueno, el próximo video que se viene de la nueva sección de los juguetes antiguos. Que estén bien, hasta luego.
It's about what they want to create. They have a vision, and that's what creates a magic. And for Nintendo, as long as that puts a smile on someone's face, for us, we're really excited about that. For me, recently it was a short hike. I am a mom of two, and I'm super busy all the time and exhausted at the end of the day. And so when I get to put that on and relax and fly around the island, it's cute, adorable characters. And I even shed a tear. I won't spoil it for people, but that's a great indie game for me. And so I think that's the magic of indie games.
Michelle, how does Freedom Games evaluate these initially unproven mechanics and ideas?
The developers are extremely passionate about the game. That kind of weighs a lot into it as well. I came from an indie background too. If you didn't live, eat, and sleep what you were selling, it wasn't going to work. So a lot of our indies are kind of the same, but more in a more healthy scenario now. That's something that we consider too. But basically, Triple I is all about passion. It really is, and that's what kind of differentiates it from some other titles or genres is passion, I would say.
Right now, what I love about a lot of really good, talented game developers that I meet is that their motivation isn't driven by money. It's driven by a singular vision that they really have had for a long time, usually. They just want to make it happen.